Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the BVEF Education Room for the Virtual Job Fair and Career Readiness Symposium. Our first scheduled guest is actually a last minute addition, and it is the Senator Ryan Fatman and his wife Stephanie. They're not quite in the room yet, so hopefully they will be joining us soon. And as soon as they do, we will start with them. Otherwise, if they're not able to make it this morning, we have Jonathan Cortez from the Department of Correction, who is going to talk to us about professional Snapchat, which should be pretty entertaining, and he will be on at 11:15. If you have any questions, feel free to type it into the chat. Students, teachers, anyone else who's in this room, feel free to interact. We have booked a solid day of a lot of different interesting speakers, and we're hoping that you will find it engaging. If you have any questions, feel free again to put them in chat, or if you just want to say hi to one of the speakers, please do so. I just want to give a quick shout out. I see that we have Mrs. Cook's class from Woodward Day School here. So hello, Woodward Day School. We're so glad that you're able to join us. And we'll have Jonathan on soon for you. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry, we're running a little bit late. We were having technical difficulties logging in, so
Sorry about that. That happens to the best of us. Even senators apparently have technical difficulties.
apparently.
Thank you so much for joining us and kicking off our day. You are the first guest of the day for the Central Massachusetts Public School Systems Virtual Job Fair and Career Readiness Symposium. So thank you so much for joining us. Right now, we have Woodward Day School, and Mrs. Cook's class is here. I know you can't see all of the participants, so I just wanted to give you an idea of who might be here. So today we're talking about career readiness, and we have juniors and seniors from 17 school districts that are either with us live or going to be using these resources with asynchronous learning, and we're learning about how we can prepare ourselves as we go into the workforce, or how do we do something with our life that inspires us and gives us wonderful satisfaction. And you both, as a married couple, seem to be quite successful. Would you agree?
Well, thank you.
You're
I think it depends on how you measure success, right? So I don't think we measure success from a professional standpoint. We measure success from a family standpoint. And we really appreciate whoever chose that picture of us in advertising this from
welcome.
8 years ago. We've aged a little bit since then, but we've also had 3 children that are under the age of 5. And we've been able to figure out the work-life balance, which has been probably the most important part of our success possible. Because without that, a career at the end of the day is only a career, and of course it can be rewarding. But we've always found that the real things in life that are rewarding are those that are most meaningful, and a lot of that revolves around family. What's unique for us, though, is that we have the ability in our jobs to touch families and to make a difference in families' lives and to touch people in a way that a lot of careers don't, through constituent services and trying to help people navigate government. And I think that's more true for my wife than most people even know about.
Sure, I echo all that. I think that our family always comes first for us, and that's kind of the attitude we've brought into our careers and our professions. And my job is to oversee the probate and family court for Worcester County. And so all day, every day, I'm working with families and I'm helping them navigate really difficult situations through the court system. And it's just important to me to bring the perspectives I have with my own family and my own life, and bring that to people to try to help them. And that's always been an important part of building a career for me, is how do we take what we know and what we have and share it with other people, and then help other people as they're going through different experiences in their own lives.
That's a beautiful sentiment. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for that. So Ryan, I'm sorry, Senator Fatman, you brought up the point. Sorry, I'm from Sutton, so I actually knew you when you were a kid.
Yeah, well, please call me Ryan, because that's the name my mom gave me. So this Senate baloney is just, get to people's heads. So
I gave it away. So you had brought up the work-life balance and what measures success, and very clearly stated that for you, your family life is prioritized. How do you find a career in politics balances with your family life?
yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's not easy, and it comes in cycles. I try to compare it very much to like education, right? You know when you're going to have your really busy moments. When school is starting, everybody gets crazy. And then midterms come up, and then you have a break, and then you get crazy again, and then maybe there's other tests that you do, and then June is fastly approaching, and you get the summer, and there's a time to take a deep breath. And so the legislature and the legislative process is very similar to that. It starts by getting really busy in January, and then it moves into a period of time where it slows down a little bit. And then in the late fall, we serve every 2 years, so we have to run for reelection. In the late fall, it gets really slow around Thanksgiving and Christmas time into the winter. And then once you go into January, February of the election year, things start heating up and you have to run. So you have to, I think, be very communicative, right? You have to be able to speak to one another and say, hey, this is what's on my calendar. What's unique for us is, as 2 elected officials with young children, there's a lot of demands on our schedules. So learning how to say no has been one of the more challenging parts of our job, because we want to be as accessible as possible, but we also want our children to know that we're accessible to them too for when they need us. And that's really, really important. In fact, you might be able to hear my son right now. All 3 of our kids are home today because usually my mom would take our kids on a Wednesday, but she's sick. So, figuring all this out is quite a challenge, and we try to do our best.
Do you feel so? You two met in high school, if I'm correct.
Mm.
So you've been having a partnership in life, both building your careers, finding your inspiration, as Mrs. Fatman talked about, and finding satisfaction through your inspirations with your careers, building a family, balancing all of this. Can you give any advice to young people who are in high school going forward? What are some things that you think that you've done well, or maybe something that you might do slightly differently that would help them be successful pursuing whatever inspires them?
Always what comes to mind is just being flexible in both your ambitions and your career, and really staying true to who you are and what motivates you and inspires you, of course. But I think that there's never a clear path. I think if you had asked me even 6 years ago if I'd ever run for elected office, the answer was absolutely no. I started my career in events and sales for a hotel company and left that to go to law school, and then law school led me to elected office. And so I think that I always encourage people to just be open to what opportunity presents themselves to you, and then take the opportunities when they come. Sometimes a door shuts, but another one opens. And I think to me, sorry, our children, I think to me that's always just been what's led us. I also think taking things in stride. This is it. You take it in stride, and you just go, and you just aim towards the next goal and the next step. And some things do set you back, but I think that in the end, especially to find that fulfillment and happiness, it's just taking opportunities as they come and being flexible to change and new career paths or new ideas and new routes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for your time. I really appreciate you guys coming in and saying hello. We have the students in the room now, and we have a lot more that are going to see this afterwards. So thank you again. I appreciate your time, and we all do.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks. I wave on Zoom. I'm one of those weird people. All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Next up, we have Jennifer Cortez from, here he is, from the Department of Corrections. And we are going to talk about professional Snapchat, which was one of the more interesting topics that we got feedback on, those topic titles where people are saying to me, what is professional Snapchat?
Yeah, that was funny. Actually, we worked on that together, didn't we?
We did, and it worked. We had wanted to come up with a title that interests people, and Mr. Cortez, it worked. We had some great.
Perfect.
So, can you quickly give us a caption of what you do at the Department of Corrections and why you're speaking it to us today?
Oh, sure, of course. Actually, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the program. It's a pleasure to be here. I am actually the recruitment manager for the Mass Department of Correction. And what I do is I work with our HR department, Human Resources, and I try to find folks who are qualified candidates for the positions that we post, whether that be security or non-security positions. We are a self-contained state agency. We oversee 16 facilities. We run the state and federal state prison system here in the state of Massachusetts. And I've been doing this for a couple of years now. Prior to this, I was working with the Department of Career Services, which is what started my relationship with the Blackstone Valley Education Foundation, a great group of people, including yourself, Jocelyn. And, being the father of 4 young adults, I've coached youth sports and football, particularly, all the way to the semi-pro level. And I've always worked with young adults, and I love working with the kids, and having the opportunity to speak to them about some of the things that we take for granted is what I love to do. And hopefully I'll be able to impart some words of wisdom to everybody today.
I bet you will. So where would you like to begin? Professional Snapchat. Let's maybe begin with that. What do we mean by that? What are we talking about today, Jonathan?
Well, we're talking about a lot of different things, but social media, I think, is a big part of it, and that's where we got the Snapchat, the Instagram, the Twitter, the Facebook. Although I know the kids are getting away from the Facebook per se, but it's really understanding what you're doing with the social media, because it's such a big part of life now that I think we're, at times, even adults overlook the impact that social media has out in the world. Employers are now looking at social media accounts when they're looking at candidates and interviewing folks, because it's a telltale sign to see what people are really like. And so it's a dangerous thing. It's fun and it's exciting. We can make our TikTok videos and do our dances and what have you. But by the same token, it can be perceived, as a representation of your character and integrity. And that's something that we have to kind of always pay attention to, and it's lost. And I mean, you guys can look at you're seeing it. You're seeing it live in our society today. People are posting things that they regret. Adults are getting fired. Professional sports celebrities are making statements that are criticized and things of that nature. So you as a young adult are being judged on what is seen and what you're showing on social media. So it's important. And when I talk to kids, we talk about email addresses and things of that nature. So it was funny because, everybody was like, you'd get the quarterback of the football team and, what's your email address? It'd be hotstud@hotmail.com,
Is
and
that
it's
not
like,
good for interviews?
that's
My
not going
email
to
is
go over
hotstud
well.
at Hotmail. No.
No, 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 no. It's cute and funny, right? It's cute and funny. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, beauty queen at hotmail.com, beefcake, et cetera, et cetera. But guess what? That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for, in my particular instance, Jonathan Cortez at gmail.com, and if your name is Tom Jones and there's 1,000 Tom Jones, you're probably Tom Jones 1,000 at gmail.com. The number is accepted. But you have to have a professional, email. If I call you for a phone interview, it's funny when if you don't pick up the phone, what does the person on the other end hear? Do they hear you've reached Jonathan Cortez at 508-999-9999? Please leave a message. Or do they get a song? Do they get Snoop Doggy Dogg, playing in their ear? Some people are offended. Me, I love it. I love rap. I love hip hop. It's from my era. I'm a little older. So,
Well, I think Snoop Doggy Dogg cooks with Martha these days, so I think there's newer rappers. But
yeah, well, see, Snoop Dogg is my boy. He's my guy. DMX. I'm old school. But these are the kind of things that you don't think about. And next thing you know, somebody says, what, I'm all set. Thank you for your time, and you don't even know why. And really, you had no chance. At the word go, somebody was already judging you.
mm-hmm.
And
So
it's unfortunate, but it's reality.
Yeah, and that's before you even get through the door to the interview.
Absolutely.
Employees are checking the social media, they're calling to set up the interview or emailing, and they're judging you on those things. So that might prevent you from getting in the door for an interview.
That's correct.
Let's say you do get in the door.
Yes.
Okay, I fixed my email. My voicemail message is appropriate. I cleaned my social media. I look very, very put together and responsible. And I get an interview. What are some things that juniors and seniors in high school that may be entering the workforce now or in 4 years, 2 or 4 years, what are some things they could do in an interview to help them be successful?
All right. Well, great question. And it's really about presentation. And so here's where, your personality is going to be your best asset, regardless of your resume, your skill set, and things of that nature. Employers are looking for somebody who's going to be able to come into the organization and make an impact, be a great team player, as well as being able to do the job. So first thing I tell folks is come in, extend your hand, a firm handshake, not too strong. Let's not overpower anybody, but a nice firm handshake, always maintaining eye contact. Eye contact is important. Look the person in the eye, introduce yourself, smile. Sit down, but then sit upright and have a binder with you. Don't be afraid to have a copy of your resume. Have some questions. Do your due diligence. Do a little research before you go to the company and for the interview. Have a couple questions about what you're going to ask them at the end. And these questions are leading questions that you want an answer that actually will be a positive response that you can use to your advantage. Something along the lines of, what are you looking for in a candidate? And they say, well, we're looking for somebody who's reliable, dependable, somebody who's punctual, yada, yada, yada. And then you turn around and go, oh, that's great because I am a very dependable, and you play it right. You actually use the question to get another opportunity to sell yourself.
Okay. So let's say I got through the phone, the email, the social media, I'm in the interview, I've done my research, meaning I went to the website, I came up with some questions that are going to reflect well on me. What if I am just a person who's nervous and I take an extra minute to think, or I laugh when I'm nervous inappropriately? Do you have any suggestions on what people can do that maybe aren't showman type people?
Yeah, no, I think what you really have to look within yourself and try to, you do have to try to calm yourself and just treat it like a conversation. You know, yes, it is an interview and it's a professional setting or what have you. But at the end of the day, just make believe you're sitting at the kitchen table and having a conversation. You're going to answer some questions, almost like you're sitting with a teacher or a friend. And this person will say like, hey, Justin, what do you like to do on the weekends? Oh, I got my soccer team, or I got chat. I'm going to the park. I'm running around, or this and that. That, and you're freely answering that question, right? It's the same kind of thing, except this is going to speak to maybe your education background, maybe your work experience, and don't overthink it. You really don't want to overthink it. Just be genuine. Just be genuine in yourself. Um, and again, at the end of the day, no one's looking for a professional presentation in the form of like an actor. Read the script, here it is. No one's looking for a robot. People appreciate your natural personality. So feel free to be yourself, and try to just stay. Again, it is easier said than done, but if you try to minimize the stress of it, just have a basic conversation. Make believe you're talking to a friend, and you're going to answer some questions about yourself. And be honest. Be honest. It's easy to speak the truth.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're going to be wrapping up soon. Is there any piece of advice or anything else that you would like to share with our juniors and seniors
I
today?
would. I know that usually when I'm in an auditorium and talking to a room of young adults, I always ask, how many people want to make money, and they all raise their hands. And then I say, okay, how do you want to make money? How many people want to go into sales? And all the hands go down. And I say, well, why don't you want to go into sales? And they'll be like, well, I don't like it. I don't like to pressure people. I want to knock on doors. And I said, okay, but by the end of the day, we're all in sales, aren't we? People are like, no, no. And I said, no, we are. And then they get it. The light bulb goes off. What are you selling? What is your best product? And then myself. And I say, yeah, when you walk out these doors and you walk down the hall, or you walk the streets, or you drive your car and you go through somewhere, people are going to make an observation and a judgment based on how you walk, how you talk, how you act. Right? Do you open the door for an elderly person? Do you let somebody walk in front of you and cross the street? Do you stop and pause and let them go through the walkway? Things like this are being judged. And so I'm going to tell everybody that you're in sales every day. Every moment that you interact with somebody, you're in sales. And you never know who that person is. That person could be the person that you're going to apply at down the street. That person could be a neighbor that you see at the church or at a sporting event. You never know who you're going to meet, and you always want to make your best impression. So my advice to you is be yourself, but be responsible to yourself. Live your best life. Work hard at what you're doing, and respect yourself enough to represent yourself the way you want to be respected. And like I said, I have 4 young adult children. I've had this conversation many a times. It's not easy. Society makes things tough, but if you really kind of step back and do your thing and do it well, you're going to be successful. Just like the senator was talking about family and life, and measure success on your own ethics. And I wish you the best of luck, people.
All right. Thank you very much. Students, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in chat now. Otherwise, I'm going to let Jonathan go. Just so you know, the Department of Corrections does have some entry-level openings. So when you get into the job booth area of this job fair, feel free to visit their booth and learn more. He's the recruitment guy, so easy to talk to, and might be a good start for someone. Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for joining us.
Thanks for the free ad.
No problem. Least I can do. All right, everyone, we're going to go dark for about 15 seconds while I cue the Trades Are Hot video, which talks about how trades are training. It's a short 2-minute video, and then the next speaker is scheduled for 11:35. Representative Soter will be joining us. I have had communication from his chief of staff that he is having a busy morning, but we're still very hopeful that he'll be able to join us at 11:35. Again, if you have any questions or would like to give us feedback, feel free to use the chat.
in the residential construction industry, and the demand for well-trained and skilled tradesmen will continue to grow. This is your chance to earn a great living while building America. Find your future in the construction trades. Carpenters turn a design into a reality. They work from architectural plans to construct the wooden framing of a building. Electricians install, maintain, and repair the electrical infrastructure of a home, from circuit breakers to lighting fixtures to video, voice, and data. Plumbers install and repair the water systems within a home that run through everything from the kitchen and bathroom to the laundry room to solar hot water. HVAC technicians work for a more sustainable Earth. They install and maintain heating, cooling, and ventilation systems throughout a home. Masons are one of the oldest and most respected trades in the building industry. They are craftsmen who work primarily with brick, stone, and tile to create functional art. Painters put the final touches on a home. They paint all interior and exterior surfaces to protect them from damage by water, mold, and corrosion. Participating in the NAHB Student Chapter program will give your students an in-depth, hands-on look at all of the building trades and help them develop the leadership skills they need to enter the residential construction field. Visit nahb.org/trades to find out more.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to pop the link for NAHB if anyone is interested. They have a really wonderful website where you can find out more information about careers in the trades. And then in about 3 minutes, hopefully Representative Soter will be joining us. If not, our next speaker will be at 11:45, and it is Pam Formosa from BrainFit Academy, which is a wonderful organization and all about communication and your brain. So that should be very interesting.
Hi, Jocelyn.
Hi, Erica.
Hi, everybody. For those that may or may not know me, I'm Erica Baum, also with BVEF in the executive director role. I thought I'd just take a second, since we had a minute or two, to kind of piggyback on that trades video, if that's okay. Perfect. So I just wanted to let you know something that I've recently learned that you may or may not know as a student or teacher, but there are a lot of people that are getting old and they will soon be retiring. And if you look at the statistics that are out there, there are going to be many opportunities for career openings surrounding the trades, in the trades. So if it's an area that you are not familiar with, but you might be interested in, I do truly encourage you to kind of check it out, ask your teachers, start Googling things, talk to your school counselors. And that's all. I just wanted to share. It was a piece of information that I had that I thought I would pass along.
Thank you so much, Erica.
Thank you. See you later.
All right, see you later. I don't see Representative Soter yet, but we will pop our videos back on the moment he is able to join us. Hello, Representative Soter.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? I'm so glad you were able to join us. I know you have a busy day today, so thank you so much for taking the time to pop in and say hello.
No problem. My pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure.
So
Thank you for having me.
we have 17 school districts participating, juniors and seniors. Some are with us now. You are being streamed to classrooms. We're also live on YouTube. And then this is also recorded for our students that couldn't be with us at this exact time.
No
So,
pressure then is what you're telling me.
right, no pressure at all. Well, you're used to speaking in front of people though, right? You're a representative.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
public.
I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what that's going to be like anymore when we get back to normal because it's all been on Zoom. So
That's true. You'll have to shake the rust off those public speaking skills. So
true, very true.
I'm just going to ask you a couple quick questions
Sure.
today. We're really focused on career readiness, which is a
Excellent.
combination of a lot of different things, getting our juniors and seniors ready to enter the workforce, find something that is satisfying for their life.
Mhm.
And my first question for you is what inspired you to become a representative and go into politics?
Um, well, I think at a very young age, I was involved in politics. I started, my uncle was a state rep in Worcester. I was just a little kid then, from that standpoint. But when I was in second grade, the presidential race was probably the most. I'm not very involved in presidential politics anymore, even though I'm an elected official. But that race, for some reason, at that time, I was in the second grade and I was really enamored with what was going on. I just kind of around me, the surroundings, kind of on the verge of, at that time, we were on the verge of another depression in the economy, and things just weren't going in the right direction. And I think more of the inspiration at that time that was brought forth to focus on the needs and what we needed to do to get people back on track kind of really sucked me into politics and got me involved. And one of the things I learned from that standpoint was local politics is everything. Local politics is where things happen, where you can actually change people's lives. Local politics is where it actually makes a difference. Whether it's funding on education, funding on roads, bridges, police, public safety, fire, just all those things matter locally. And those are everyday meat and potato type situations. I worked on many campaigns when I was younger. I just loved it. I was always behind the scenes at that point, but I always said there would be someday that I would run. I was actually involved in Student Government Day. I think when it really first hit me, and it was back in '91, I was playing the role of Paul Cellucci. And at that time, he was senator and he was running with Bill Weld for governor. And they asked me, the school department and actually the Cellucci, the office wanted somebody from Worcester to be playing his role that day. Unfortunately, he was campaigning for lieutenant governor at the time, so we didn't really get a chance to see each other. But I got to play that role, and it was that time I realized, sitting in that room, I was playing the role of senator, but we were in the House chamber and we were in the Senate chamber, and I realized then I knew my public life was going to probably at some point get me back there. And sure enough, it did. The opportunity arose. I moved from Worcester to Bellingham. I ran for selectman, and I ran and that's an interesting in itself, because in small towns, if you're really not from the town or you weren't born and raised, there was always this notion that you're just never going to break that barrier through. But I did. I walked door to door. I told people why I moved here, why I love Bellingham, and why I think I could be a great selectman for them. And I won. And it was a top two vote getters got in, and I was running against two long-term residents, born and raised here. And
Can I
but
ask you a
people
quick
believe me.
question? Do you feel like you were successful in that race because you took the time to build relationships with the people of Bellingham?
Yes, absolutely. The whole thing about politics is, if you're going to get into it, you have to get into it for the right reasons. If you're going to get into it just for the title, just because you say that you are an elected official or you want the power,
Mhm.
then don't do it. Like, if that's your reason for doing it, then don't do it. I really, it's actually funny because I was kind of having this conversation a little bit this morning about, um, I got involved in this because at a very young age, I was a very selfish human being. I'm going to be honest. I was a very selfish person, and I never really thought about helping others and what it meant. And somebody who was very important in my life, who's no longer with me, was a mentor in that, and took me out of that. And he always said to me is that, if you run for politics because you have the passion for it, just realize that when you get into it, if you are going to be a selfish human being like you are right now, it was kind of a hard talk. He's like, you're never going to make a difference. You're no different than any other politician that people have a perception of. So I got involved in it because I felt I could use the position to help people. And that's truly what I do. I don't base it on party. Yeah, I'm a Republican. I do have those beliefs. But do I come to the middle on a lot of things? Absolutely, I do. Do I consider myself a 21st century Republican? Yeah. And when you ask me, well, you'll probably ask me at some point, or somebody might ask me, what does that mean? Well, it means that, I think right now in our society, we have the reason why we're so far apart is we can't bring some of these things together. There's a group of people who social issues are their major concern. And then there's a fiscal piece of it, which is a concern to everybody. But for some reason, we can't intermingle those two together. And I firmly believe that I'm trying to transcend that into a different thought process. I don't want our young minds to only think that there's one way to everything. You could have the boast. You can believe in social issues here, but it shouldn't overtake the belief that we all have of fiscal discipline in running our government and make sure that we all have a future that's better for all of us. And we can do all those things. So when I learned that, that we need to be better people, and helping people, for me, really transcended and changed my life. So I am in that notion that I've gone into this job and that's what I do. And that's who I am. Do I pretend to be a saint? Absolutely not. Have I made some bad mistakes in my life and sometimes still do? Absolutely, I do. I'm a human being. But I don't let that interfere with my politics. I think the problem with politics and some of the politics today is that we focus on the personal and not focus on the person. And I do not pretend to bring my personal life into politics to cover up what I'm really supposed to do. And what I'm really supposed to do is try really hard to represent people. Whether you vote for me, not vote for me, I have 41,000 people. Not every one of them vote either, but I have 41,000 people to help. And that's what got me involved in politics. Now, whether that is a way to further my career, if it ever does, whatever. But I'm not looking to further my career right now.
That was such a great answer, Representative Soter. You hit on so many really wonderful, thought-provoking points. And I know just in talking to juniors and seniors that there's a lot of young people that are looking to make a difference in the world, and politics can get a bad rap. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective. We're going to be wrapping up, but I have one last question for you, if you don't mind. What is behind you? Is that a shovel? And why do you have a shovel in your office?
Well, first of all, I'll show you what's in my office. My family. This is my personal private office. My family. That shovel. So that shovel is interesting. That shovel is a project that I was working on as a selectman that finished when I was a rep, that was by the engineers and the designers of it. It just goes to show you how much I believe in business, working with public sector, public partnerships, which you guys do very well. And the chamber does very well, and all kinds of bringing people together and bringing the companies together to make sure that we have what we have going on with what you guys are doing. So that for me was a gift. But yeah, I've got a lot going on in here.
Yeah.
But before we go off, I have a quote that I read this morning and I thought about it yesterday, and I just want to read this to you.
Sure.
Never blame anyone in your life. Good people give you happiness, bad people give you experience. Worst people give you a lesson, and the best people give you memories. And that's why I got into politics, because this is going to be a memory I'm never going to forget. And if you ever want to get into public service, that's what it should be about. The memories and what you leave and where you leave it with people. So
I love that. Thank you so much. Do you hire interns?
yes, I do. And if anybody wants to,
Right.
please reach out to us. We would love to have some interns. Please reach out to my chief of staff, which you have, I think, Jocelyn, you have his information, but it's Eric.Eisner, ERIC. EISNER at mahouse.gov, mahouse.gov. But Jocelyn has the information, get it to you, but please reach out to us. We would love to have you. We've had so many great interns that just, have gone on to other things and it's helped them and we make it an experience and we get everybody involved. So I would love to have you on board if it's something you like. Just send us a letter of interest and a little bit of a background and we'll set up a Zoom call. We only have space for so many, but we definitely will bring you on.
All right, perfect. I'm going to put my email in chat. So if anyone's interested in getting Eric's email and getting in touch with Representative Soter, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll get that information to you. Thank you again, Representative
Thank
Soter.
you.
It was
Thank
really
you. Have a
great
wonderful
talking
day,
to you.
everybody. Take it easy. Be safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Next up, we have Pam Formosa from Brain Fit Academy. I see she's already on. Pam is always on the ball. I appreciate that. She should be. She works with brains. So, Pam, I'm just going to ask you to unmute yourself so that the people on speaker.
There you go. Sorry about that.
No problem. So, good morning, Pam. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
And so we are ending our first hour with you, which is the what to do hour. So we've talked about social media, interviewing, resumes. We had Senator Fatman come on and kind of talk about some basic family work balance. We had Representative Soter come on and talk about inspiring work and how to get inspired for work. So you are the owner and president, I assume, of Brain Fit Academy. Can you tell us real quick before we get into our conversation, what is Brain Fit Academy?
Brain Fit Academy is a company that works with kids and families for those kids and families who are struggling with challenges such as ADHD, learning disabilities, autism, anxiety. And we're not counselors, but what we do is we take a movement-based approach in helping to organize and develop the brain so that there's better processing and maximizing people's potential.
Well, we all want to maximize our potential. I don't know anyone who doesn't. So for the juniors and seniors, we have 17 school districts, whether they're on now or going to be watching us later. How can Brain Fit Academy or the ideas that you work with, or what could they do to maximize their potential in the workforce? Big question.
That is a huge question.
Well,
the topic that you and I had talked about is the idea of communication. And obviously, as the demands increase and you're involved in more of a professional or career type place, there's some expectations for communication. And one of the things that I've learned through my own processes around communication is that you really can not only learn communication skills, but you can set your brain up to be more optimal and more successful in that area. And one of the things that we talk a lot about is setting ourselves up for success by organizing the brain on all three levels. And basically, if you think about the brain, most people don't think about the brain like I do, but we simplify the crap out of it, excuse me, where there's the higher level cognitive brain, and then underneath there's an emotional brain. And then below that is the brain stem, which is actually really setting up the automatic functions like heart rate and things like that in our system. But it's that emotional brain that can make or break us for communication, because it's that part of the brain that decides if we're going to react to the situation or we're going to respond to the situation.
What is the difference between reacting to the situation and responding to the situation?
Okay, a reaction is quicker for sure. And it's sometimes done on an automatic basis. Like we didn't really think about it. The emotion took over. There's a small little area in the brain. It's called the amygdala. And it's like scanning for danger, scanning for trouble, and it reacts much faster than our thinking brain. So if the amygdala activates first and reacts without the help of the higher level thinking, then we're going to react. We're going to maybe say something we don't mean, or we're going to roll our eyes. I was a big eye roller when I was just thinking about this the other day. I'm like, wow, when did I stop rolling my eyes at people? And that's obviously a turnoff for communication in the business world or in the career world. You might yell or swear or, stomp your feet, whatever, that reaction is. A response is more of, oh, I still feel that emotion of, really, that didn't feel right. I got angry at that, or frustrated, or I got feedback I didn't like. But there's a pause. There's that pause button, which is actually higher level in the brain, where we can process the information and make a decision about how we're going to respond. So when we react, it's not really a decision. It's kind of an automatic response. We can also take a moment and respond. And it's like a little switch. And a lot of people don't realize that is totally controllable. That is totally trainable and controllable in the brain. It's really about organizing and developing, strengthening that part of the brain so that you're more capable of doing that.
And if you are able to strengthen that muscle, let's say, and
exactly.
respond versus react, how does that help people with communication in the workplace?
Well, I think it goes along with, if you can respond to things, it's also suggesting that you're able to listen. And I think that listening to other people, whether it's listening to their nonverbal skills or listening to what they're actually saying, being aware of tones and some of the subtleties, that's kind of all part of being able to respond. And so when you're able to respond, you're able to more likely able to manage people effectively if you're interested in moving up in the ladder, if you will. You're also could be a better leader in the business, or I keep saying business world, but in the work world. It's kind of part of that emotional IQ. I don't know if people have really thought about that or have ever read more about that, but it's not all about your smarts. It's a lot about your emotional IQ and how you're able to deal with yourself and people and communication.
If I was a person, if I was a junior or a senior, and I was prone to getting a little irritable sometimes, and I found myself, something happened that annoyed me, and I get warm and flush and my tone changes. Now, I think that's just a part of me. I can't change that. You're saying that I can change that and it will help me be successful. Is that true?
100%.
Where would I start? What could I do?
Well, I'm sure many people have heard about, take a deep breath, right? and it's hard. For some, it's like, yep, that really helps. I'm able to pause long enough to take a deep breath. One of the other tools that we offer is something called tapping. And tapping is about, if you've ever heard of acupuncture, it's kind of like psychological acupuncture. There's no needles, but we're going to tap on different points of our hand or face or other areas of the body. that stimulate the energy in the body. And sometimes when we're feeling that negative emotion and the energy in our body actually gets stuck. And so by tapping, it helps to release that energy and calm the system. And there's a point, if you look right here between your two fingers, the two bones that come here, there's that soft spot. Just tapping right there, and you can do this anywhere, helps to calm that reaction response. It calms the mind, it calms the body. And for some people, this does not work and doesn't do anything. For other people, it's a huge response. I mean, they're like, holy smokes, that really, really, really helps. And it's a very empowering to have some of these simple tools that can really make or break the moment.
Great. Thank you so much. That was such a concrete skill that the kids can the young adults can walk away with today. I know we only have a few minutes left, but there was another question I wanted to ask you. In the workplace, there's so many different people. There's different ages, there's different backgrounds, different skill sets, different emotional IQs, as you said, which basically just means emotional smarts, right? So that can be challenging as far as communication. Do you have any advice for students that have been maybe surrounded with other people their own age in school and their own background going into a more diverse setting as far as communication? What advice could you offer them? I'm making it challenging for you today, I can tell.
Yeah. I mean, really figuring out what makes you calm and grounded, centered. Like you probably know whether it's exercise for you, maybe some people do meditate or do yoga, or they have their own ways of calming their system. Be aware of that. And I think that that's part of emotional intelligence, is being aware of yourself. And if you know you're going into a situation and you're not in a good place and you're feeling more reactive, it's only going to set you up and possibly someone else up to not be as successful as you can be. So one of the things that I really hone in on in my life is I have to make sure that I'm the best me so that I can work with other people. So I use my own tools to be able to do that. So just be aware of what makes you your best. Where do you feel in the zone and you're able to stop and pause and listen to other people? That's going to make you more successful in a complex work environment for sure.
What a wonderful answer, because no matter how complex that work environment is, if the solution always comes back to ourselves, that is something that we can work on.
We can control, we can empower ourselves and control that, because sometimes you can't control some of these other stuff.
No, I try. It doesn't seem to work.
It doesn't work.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Pam.
You're welcome.
Coming for any teachers. We have some classrooms on. So just quick note, any teachers that are on from elementary and middle school, we are having a professional development event April 14th. I know there's a bunch of registrations, but it's online, so everyone can come. You can go to our website if you'd like to learn more about BrainFit Academy and more tools to help students in your classroom. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Next up, we have Betsy Brewer. We are moving into our second hour. This is the What to Look For hour of our event. And first up, we have Betsy Brewer. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. Betsy, she is also a board member of BVEF, so we're very, very lucky to have her on board our team. And she is from Earth Limited and the Southwick Zoo. Hi, Betsy. How are you doing today?
Great, Jocelyn. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to this.
I am looking forward to hearing from you too. This is one of my first ideas for information to get out to students, because you have done something really incredible with your life that I'm hoping so many students from 17 school districts can hear about today. And that is how to turn your passion into a career. And so why don't we start with talking about what is your passion?
My passion is definitely conservation and education. And as you can see, I have a rhino with me in the office today. So I just thought that was very fitting because one of my passions is protecting endangered species that are very important to this planet. And the rhino is definitely one of them, along with all other species, because we're all interdependent. We're all interconnected with life on the earth. And I find that it's very important to discuss these issues with a huge growing population on planet Earth.
Thank you. And did you always feel that way? Like when you were younger, when you were in high school, was this a passion of yours, or is it something that developed during adulthood?
When I was younger, I always wanted to teach something. I was always interested in that. And I was always interested in animals. I grew up at Southwick Zoo. It was my family's home. So my life, while I thought it was very normal, I guess was not. And, I guess I thought everybody had, wild animals in the backyard, just like my kids did when they were growing up. They thought, why would anybody want to see a kangaroo or a lion cub that you're raising? How annoying. But it was my life, and it was definitely my passion, and I grew to love animals. And as I got older, I realized how important the animal and human connection is. And I think we forget that human beings are animals and we're all living on this planet together. And it's so important to live harmoniously and to respect all forms of living life.
Thank you. And so the Earth Limited is separate from Southwick Zoo, correct?
It is. It's a 501c nonprofit that I founded in 1999. And it's definitely been my labor of love. And it's been really hard working at it. But I think if you have a passion for something, you can create something. You can create an organization or a business or anything you set your mind to, as long as you never give up. And that's what I did with Earth. I just kept going and plugging along. And, a lot of times I think, oh, I haven't gotten as far as I want to get or want to go. And then other times I look back at the journey, and it's really been rewarding. And I've really created a lot of great things at the zoo. So there's always more to be done. And for any of the students that are listening here today, I know that if you have a love of something, if you put your heart in it, and even when the going gets tough, if you just don't give up and just keep working through it, you will find your niche, you'll find your place, and you can make it happen.
When you're working towards it, so let's say I have a passion for sewing, okay, and I want to turn that into a career. Besides just me working at it, what sorts of skills or what sorts of things can I do to help me be successful?
Go to somebody that has been doing it for a long time. Volunteer. Say, I want to come in and help you. I want to come in and learn all about this. Don't expect to, land yourself in the perfect spot right away. Put yourself out there. And if you do have a passion, you'll go, you'll volunteer, you'll take your time. The really important things about any job in life, and I strongly believe this, is learning every aspect about your job. If you're a principal of a school, you should know what the janitor does. And that job is just as appreciated. Everybody needs to have value in their job and in their life. And it's so important to find value in all jobs. And I think that's one of my pet peeves in society oftentimes, is that we don't look at the value in jobs that maybe don't pay well or don't have a career path that is great. But everything, like the planet, with, like I said, everything interconnected, everything matters. So value the job. And if it's something simple that you think is your passion, go for that. Be the best you can be at it. But definitely get your foot in some door, volunteer your time and listen to people. And it's really important to just pay attention and communicate and share your ideas, but listen.
So, if the first step for me would perhaps be to volunteer somewhere so that I could learn more about how to turn my passion into a business. Um, I know Southwick Zoo, and I don't know if Earth Limited does, but you use volunteers. Am I correct?
We have a organized docent training program. So, and those, unfortunately, all those docents have to be over 18 years of old due to our liability insurance. However, we do job shadowing. And when we can fit students in, they can come shadow a certain job for a day or an afternoon. And I find those experiences very rewarding as well. I have had interns, and we take in college interns, or sometimes interns if they're over 18, so that could be high school. But I find that sometimes the interns will come to me and say, you know, they're really upset and they're really sad and they're afraid to tell me that I just want you to know I didn't like it. I didn't, you know, it wasn't for me. And I say, great, that's wonderful. Now you know there's something that you don't want to do. So finding out what you don't want to do is just as important as finding out what you do want to do. And also, you're learning something. You're learning, wow, this is different than I thought it was. And, you know, you can relate that to people in your life. You meet somebody and you think they're different than you thought they were. So, you know, learning and education is so important and so valuable.
Great answer. With the job shadowing, that's an opportunity to kind of check out the job before even making the commitment of volunteering or internships or things like that. So I assume that could be very valuable to students that might be fine tuning what they want to do. When people job shadow or volunteer or intern, can you share a little bit? I know you have so much experience with this, and our juniors and seniors are going to be going out in the world. Can you share any feedback or anecdotes that might be helpful for them to be successful if they do volunteer or intern somewhere?
Again, listen, you know, listen to people and pay attention. And a lot of times we'll have students come in that say, oh, I just learned this, and they think they know a lot. And perhaps they do, you know, they read it in a book or they studied it, but there's so many variables when it comes to any job and so many things to learn that it's really important to look at all aspects of the job and what other people do within the job area too, and to find that valuable as well. At the zoo, we have zookeepers, we have educators, we have custodial help, we have gift shop retail, we have food and beverage, we have a restaurant, we have chefs, we have cooks. And, you know, every job is extremely valuable, right down to the dishwashers. So I think it's really important. And when you have an opportunity, and, you know, I have a lot of kids here that say, I keep trying to get a job, and I'm like, get your foot in the door, do whatever it takes. If you want to work at a company, say, I'll take whatever job you can get. You know, it's interesting. I was just at SeaWorld for a board meeting, and the vice president and the director of SeaWorld Orlando started in food and beverage. He started out down in the trenches, and 30 years later, he is in charge of the entire operation. No college, no education. So obviously a high school education, but he worked his way up, and because he had the passion, and to listen to his story was remarkable. And I think when you're young, you know, you don't feel like you have the time. I mean, we're also impulsive when we're young, and life goes by very quickly. So take that time, you know, say to yourself, I'm going to give myself a year or two. I'm going to volunteer and I'm going to work towards this. Give yourself some time. Just don't do it for a couple weeks or a month and say, I'm done, it's not working out. When you show your diligence and that you are hardworking and you do want to strive for it, I guarantee you almost 100% it will happen, because that's the nature of working. Work hard, stay in tuned, and just keep going with a smile on your face. And you will get to where you want to go. Like I said, I can almost guarantee it. And I've done some jobs here at the zoo that I've absolutely hated. and eventually I got to where I wanted to be. And although it's my family's zoo, I did start out, cleaning poop out of cages. And when I was a kid, I ran a cotton candy stand and put bumper stickers on cars and things like that. And I think you just have to keep sticking with it. You're not going to love every day of your job. It's just, that's impossible. So you have to take the good with the bad, which makes the good much more rewarding.
Thank you. Wonderful. Well, before we finish up for the day, because your spot is about passion, I want to just real quick go back to that rhino behind you, because I know you're very passionate about rhinos. Can you just share with everyone, why are you passionate about rhinos? What's going on with that picture?
Well, I really feel, first of all, that other animals are put more in the spotlight. For some reason, rhinos are not. An example of that is when people come to the zoo, a lot of people think they're hippos. So they're not even sure that they are even rhinos. Elephants are in the news a lot more. I think maybe because they're a much more complicated species and they're a much smarter species, but rhinos are very important to our landscape. They're a keystone species. They open up grassways for other animals to thrive. Once the rhinos are gone, other animals will become extinct too, because again, we're all interconnected in some way. And when I started thinking about what could I do to help the rhinos, I was where your students are now. I had no idea. What was I going to do? Fortunately, we had a couple of rhinos here, so that helped. And I said, I'll start these rhino encounters. And everybody was like, rhino encounters? How are you going to do that? I was like, we're going to do this. And the insurance company wasn't very happy about it. But we created this program where you meet the rhinos. The money is donated towards rhino conservation. And it's been about 6 or 7 years now. And as the program grew, and the rhinos, I've learned, are definitely one of the largest species at the zoo that are very easy to do an encounter with. They have no natural predators, so other than man. So they're easy to approach, unlike, say, a giraffe, where they get preyed upon. So as soon as you go to touch them, they're going to run away. But I created this program, and then I partnered with Project Rhino in South Africa. Now, never in my life did I think that I would be traveling to South Africa and dehorning rhinos to save their lives. And I actually wanted to sign up for a program to work in South Africa for a month with the rhinos. And I'm right on the border of being too old for that, because most of their students are college students. But I'm still thinking of doing that, and they accepted me into the program. So never in a million years did I ever think I'd be doing that either. So I really think that just honing in and finding out what you want to do. And if you don't find out what you want to do when you're younger and even into your 20s, it'll come. Definitely find out what you don't want to do. Don't be stuck in a place where you're not happy for a long time. Keep looking. And when you're young, you can do that.
Well, that is a great answer. And what a great example of beyond your passion for conservation, specifically the rhino, how your passion about the rhino being kind of not as well publicized animal led to the encounters and led to an Africa trip and all of this. So thank you so much for sharing all of that.
We have donated over $100,000 to rhino conservation.
Wow. That's a lot.
I know. And I can't believe it even. I can't believe it. But so much more has to be done.
If any of our students are interested in conservation, or specifically the rhino, how would they get started? How would they help the cause?
First of all, there's lots of programs that students can do to get them into the type of field for learning and to get connected with people. Networking is wonderful. I always welcome students to email me at the zoo. I'm happy to talk to you and email you back. I have a young girl in the 7th grade right now who's working with me on a rhino project at the zoo. And I've done many projects with young people at the zoo. We also have a teen zoology camp here. where students can get involved. And we try to show them different areas that you could be involved in, whether it's a vet tech, veterinary, wildlife conservation, careers in like Audubon or places like that. That's another way to do it. Find a camp. I know Roger Williams has some, the Audubon Society has some, and I'm sure there's other places where they're, near or around where they could find this information, do a camp, volunteer. Like I said, once you get your foot on the door, there's a young girl here who has been in our camps every single year since she was in kindergarten. And she's probably in the 6th grade now, is my guess. And I know her. She has been coming here. When she turns 15, if she applied for a job, I would say hands down, no doubt, So it's that recognition, meet people, talk to people, find out about the field you're interested in. And that's the best thing you guys can do for yourselves.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Betsy, from Southwick Zoo and Earth Limited. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. The animals are always a big draw for everyone, as you well know. So thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. And the animals make it so easy for me.
Everyone loves animals, right? All right. Well, thank you,
Absolutely.
Betsy. Next up, we have Jenna Rubenstein from Boston Scientific, who is going to be talking to us about the importance of work culture. And I see she's already on. Everyone is on time today. It is wonderful. I'm having a great day. It's great. You never know how these things are going to go. Jenna is joining us from California, and she is, again, from Boston Scientific. So welcome, Jenna. Do you want to take a minute and introduce yourself to our juniors and seniors from 17 school districts and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Fabulous. Jocelyn, thank you so much for having me and for inviting Boston Scientific to be part of this this virtual fair that you are doing today. I think it's so important for high school kids to think about life beyond high school, think about what they want to do, whether it's college or vocational school or going right into the workforce. And I hope I can provide a little preview of what organizational life might be like for you and why looking at the culture of an organization is so important. So, as Jocelyn said, I am the head of culture, engagement, and organization development at Boston Scientific. And it's a lot of words that really, when I sum it down to it, my job is to make sure that we have a place and a culture where people want to come and work, where people want to stay as part of our organization, and where they feel engaged and they can bring their best and their whole self to work.
That sounds like a great place to work.
I think it is, and I think you all should come work with us.
My boss might get mad if I jump.
Okay.
It sure sounds great. All right. So my first question for you, Jenna, since you are an expert in this field, is what is work culture?
Yeah, I love that question, Jocelyn, because the way I define culture is, let's think about it from maybe some examples that people might know. So I live out here in California. I know most of you are on the East Coast, but if you think about Silicon Valley, right? Our friends up to the north in Northern California, there's a lot of famous companies up there. We can think about Facebook, we can think about Twitter, we can think about Google. And when people think about those companies, there's some very specific images that come to people's heads that they may have seen, if they're on social media, some of those platforms. People think about the free food that they get. Oh, I can get my car detailed at work. Oh my gosh, they have like beach volleyball courts at work. Like, that looks like a really fun place to work.
I saw a show with cereal dispensers.
Yes,
That
yes.
was great.
Cereal dispensers, and some of them are going to have frozen yogurt dispensers too, right? Like all the toppings that we all like if we go to our local frozen yogurt place. So those are some of the things that people look at and say, gosh, that's part of the culture of the organization. And it absolutely is. Those are things that you can see, those are things that you can touch, and those are maybe some things that will draw you to an organization. There's also things that you can't see, but that you can feel when you walk in the door. Things that are about how people behave, how they act, how they treat one another. So I like to say that culture is really the secret sauce of an organization that you know when you have it and you know when it's missing.
Great answer. So, Boston Scientific thinks work culture is an important enough thing to have a whole department. I never heard of such a thing before I was connected with you. Why is work culture so important at Boston Scientific?
We believe that building a strong culture is what builds a strong organization, and that you have to start with the culture really as the foundation of it. And our culture is driven by our mission and our values. For your students on the phone who don't know what Boston Scientific is, we are a medical device company. And the reason we exist is because we transform lives through innovative medical solutions that improve the health of patients around the world. We help very sick people. We help people who have had heart attacks. We help people who have had blood clots. We help people who have cancer. And those are the reasons that we exist, and we're so passionate around what we do. And we want to make sure that we have the culture that supports that. And let me take it one step further. We have something at Boston Scientific called our values, and our values drive our culture. They're really the core of what we do. And our values are things such as we are caring, we provide meaningful innovation, we value diversity, we have a winning spirit. And it's really these things that we go back to every day to look at how we behave, and we use them as the anchor for decisions that we make and actions that we take.
And Boston Scientific has found, correct me if I'm wrong, that having those values and placing importance on work culture actually helps productivity.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of research out there. If anybody's interested in learning more about this, there is a whole lot of research and anecdotal word of mouth that says when you have a great culture, your employees are happier, more satisfied, more engaged, more productive, and they want to stay with you, and they want their friends to come and work with you also. So it becomes kind of a groundswell and a word of mouth for people to learn about your organization.
That sounds great. Your face lit up when you said research, which mine does not light up when I say the
That's
word
okay.
research. But it leads me to the question, you are the head of this department, right? This unique department at Boston Scientific. What about work culture is so important to you that your face lights up when we say research?
I believe that this is one of our cultural imperatives of what makes us special. And there's a saying that I'll share with all of you, that culture eats strategy for lunch. And what that means is that a company can have the best products. It can have the most innovation moving forward. It can have the greatest 3-year strategy. But if it doesn't have a great culture that we've defined and that we're living, people don't want to be a part of it. They don't want to come to work for us, and they don't want to tell their friends about coming to work for us. So Boston really believes so strongly in the foundation of our culture, that we want to make sure that we have somebody just like me who spends their time thinking about it and ensuring that we've got a great one.
And you've said great work culture means people want to work for your company. They want to bring their friends. If they don't have that, whether it's the visual, physical things they can see or just that feeling, they're not going to want to work for you. They're not going to stay. And I'm wondering, what are some things that students could look for as they go into interviews or job shadowing or internships that they could observe? Of course, the cereal machines and the frozen yogurt. That's an easy one, right? But a feeling is a little bit harder. Are there any signs that students could look for to help them get into a really good company with a great work culture?
Yeah, I love the question. And there's a lot of things students can do as they're looking at companies now. The first thing, and I would say the easiest thing to do, go to the company's website. What does the website say about the company? Does it say what its mission is? Does it say what its values are? Do you see pictures of employees working together, collaborating, kind of having fun there? If you're brought in for an interview, I always look around not just at the physical building, but I look at all the people who work there. How are you treated in the interview process, right? How are you greeted at the door? What does the hiring manager have to say about the company? Are they kind of sitting there with their hands folded, kind of rolling their eyes like they can't wait, for this process to be done? Are they really excited and happy that you're thinking about their company? Look at other employees there also. Other employees are a great indication of what the company culture is. And then finally, I'll say social media is everywhere, and your students are probably way more fluent in it than I am. But people talk now. People talk about their experiences and people talk about their companies. And going out to some of the websites where people talk about their experiences and companies is another great way for students to see what is it really like to work at Ford Motor Company or to work at Google or to work at the New York Times or wherever they're considering.
They can do research, actual research
They
to
can do research, yes.
yeah, research has come up a few times today in different ways. So thank you for giving them something concrete to walk away with here. One last thing is earlier, actually, first guest today was Senator Fatman and his wife, and they discussed the work-family balance and how they prioritized that in their own life. And I'm wondering if you can just briefly talk about, besides work culture affecting your work life, how does it impact your life outside of work?
Yeah. Work culture has an impact both in the organization and out of the organization. And Boston Scientific, one of our values is our caring value, and that we care about our employees and we care about our communities and we care about our patients that we work with. And we work with organizations just like yours, Jocelyn, and many others in the Massachusetts and the Minnesota and all over area so that we can become part of the communities in which we serve patients. So while I know we all want or strive for, we call it work-life harmony, because I don't know that there's ever really a balance that we find. I think it's a trade-off that we make. We want to make sure that we have a strong relationship and a partnership with our communities so that that culture of Boston Scientific really becomes part of the communities in which we are a part of.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. It's really important information. Do you have any parting advice or words, something else you'd like to share with everyone today before you sign off?
I will just say I listened to the previous speaker from the zoo. I think it was Betsy, and I was nodding my head vigorously at the advice that she was giving your students. In that, as you are thinking about what your first job is going to be, or your path right after high school, you start from the ground up. And that's exactly how I started. And we didn't have time to go into my whole background and everything, but I was literally the person that was doing anything within my first company so that I could learn what the job was. My role doesn't exist in many companies, so you have to learn kind of some of those basics and some of the foundations, and take any role that you have alignment with your values, because you will learn, you will grow, and it will help create career pathways for you that you don't know exist right now.
Great insight. Well, thank you so much for coming and being with us today. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to our students.
My pleasure. Thank you all so much.
Thanks. Have a good day. Next up, we have Stephanie Nicole from YouTube. I don't see her on the list, so Stephanie, if you're here, turn your video on. Oh, you're here. I see you. You just came in. Great. I'm going to ask you to unmute
my microphone. There we go. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. It was a little
Good.
broken up to start with, but I can.
Okay, good.
There you are. I can see you too. That's even better. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, awesome.
That's
No problem.
So just so you know, I think I got the most feedback about your appearance today. We have a lot of juniors and seniors that were kind of thinking it was cool we had a YouTuber.
Oh,
So
I know. I feel like so many people, that's interesting career for a lot of people they want now.
well, it's new. When I was, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I know I'm older than you. When I was young, this was not a career. This didn't exist. I mean, the internet was new. So,
Oh, no.
right? So, YouTuber, influencer, this is a whole new
Mhm.
career path for this generation. So, could we quickly just start
Yes.
with, can you tell us how you got started in this career path?
Sure. Okay, so YouTube isn't my main career just because I don't feel like it's a sustainable career to have long term. There are always new people coming up, and as you age, you have to figure your audience kind of changes what they're interested in as well. So while maybe in your 20s and 30s you can talk about makeup and skincare and all of these things, those people eventually start developing families or other interests. So no one really wants to watch a 60-year-old lady put makeup on, or talk about it a lot of times. So you definitely have to kind of have like an exit strategy of what you plan on doing. So I worked in beauty product manufacturing since not too long after I got out of college. I own my own consulting business in the professional beauty industry. So I consult with manufacturers to distributors, places like Sephora. And the company that hired me last moved me up to San Francisco from Arizona, and I didn't know anybody. So I literally spent 2 months in a hotel watching YouTube videos all the time. And I went out and I bought all this crap that they were using because I liked the looks that they used or what they were saying. And I just kind of started feeling like a lot of this stuff is junk. So I said, I could do this. I know the formulation backgrounds and I was raised in the beauty industry. So I just started doing it as a hobby on the weekends. And really that's how you kind of have to do it, because you're not going to make any money in this, at least within the first 2 years. So you have to be committed to know that you're going to have to put regular content up, things that are interesting for people, a point of differentiation, because if you don't have that, there are so many people making videos, and it's not to say that you won't be successful at it, but you kind of have to add something unique and different to the conversation, whether it be even makeup looks or your personality or you're comboing like maybe cooking and makeup, or if there are people that do murder mysteries and makeup, there's a lady that eats pickles on YouTube. I mean, you can definitely do anything that interests you, but I just started on the weekends, and as I gained a following, I remember it felt like it took me forever to even get to 1,000 subscribers, and that was just from word of mouth from friends and family and Facebook posts and things like that. And I had a couple of really large videos that helped me, that got like 2 million views plus, and then then you start getting a lot of people that follow you like that. And right now, if I wanted, I could probably do it full time, but still, you have to have a thick skin and be willing to deal with a lot of trolls and things like that. So this will never be like a full-time job for me, but it definitely could be. I mean, financially it could be, but not something that interests me full-time.
And it doesn't interest you full time because of the challenges that come with it. You said trolls and
I think a lot of people get started in this and they think that they're gonna make, because when you watch YouTube and you see these lavish lifestyles that people have, I think people think that that's automatically gonna be what they have, or it's going to be an overnight success. I mean, my videos take about 20 hours worth of work between gathering all the information, looking up cost per gram. I mean, and that's not what everybody does. That's what made my, so you can and hold this up and say, I like this, buy it, it's awesome. But again, that's not probably going to be a channel that's going to be as successful, because there are millions of people doing stuff like that. So for me, it was just important that it helps me in my main career of consulting, because I can help other people build successful Instagram pages or social media, because I've done it myself. So I know what it entails.
And you know what it entails. You've been successful at it. What skills do you feel like you possess that have helped you be successful with social media and with this venture?
So I am anal retentive when it comes to even why my reviews I think are good. I have an entire review spreadsheet. I think that comes a lot from school too. I took a lot of biochem and things in college. So I have to have a structure to all of my videos. Otherwise, when you sit down to edit them, you can be kind of all over the place. So I do take some bullet points and notes, like cost per gram and things like that. If you can see, you have to be willing to have a mess behind you in an office all the time, because you're filming equipment and you get boxes of PR and samples and things like that. So it's kind of always hectic, but you do have to have a thick skin. That is one of the most important things I can't stress enough, because while say 90% of the audience is awesome and 10% suck, that's even a good percentage. That's potentially 52,000 people every video telling me that they suck and they hate me and they hope I die and I look like a man, or whatever else these people say. And it's definitely, you just have to figure out if that's something that you can tolerate, or if that's something, because I don't really know very many people that haven't had what I call the YouTube breakdown a couple of years in. It seems like everybody will get on camera and cry at some point, because it can feel overwhelming. So I would say you just have to have a thick skin. And for me, I just had to figure out ways to get around those challenges. So I wanted to stay in my comments and engaging with people, but I knew it was a potential landmine, what I could possibly see. So all of my comments are held for review. And I have a full-time comment moderator that goes through and she puts everything through. I mean, disagreements are welcome, but like, I hope you kill yourself, stuff like that gets deleted and blocked, and I don't ever have to read it. So that has saved my mental well-being anyway.
Yeah, well, there was so much to unpack in what you just said. So I think I'm going to start with the skills, and then I really want to get back to kind of that online world, because that's such a hot topic as well. So I want to first start, you identified really quickly some major skills that you have that helped you break through. And one being structure, organization, consistency. We had BrainFit Academy on earlier. They were talking about emotional IQ. So you kind of put that in for those of you out there that maybe weren't on for BrainFit. That's emotional smarts, ability to filter things and respond versus react. So those are a lot of different skills. I also know that you said the words PR. That means you're working with different companies. You're doing research. You talked about your biomedical background. That's a huge package. I'm not sure. Even myself watching your YouTube videos, which I did as research, I learned a lot about.
I hear my pterodactyl voice for probably an hour long.
And when I'm watching a YouTube video, I'm not thinking, gosh, this influencer, this YouTube person has put in 20 hours. They have a background in biomedical whatever. They, that they have amazing organizational skills, that they are foreseeing their own mental health challenges. And so they're putting structures in place to protect themselves and protect their own mental health. That's a lot of different skills. So I first just want to identify them really clearly, because I know that there's a lot of juniors and seniors, and this is a hot thing right now. So make sure you get that skill list and start developing those skills now, kids.
And again, I think it's different from a lot of people. You can go and look on channels, and some people, there's a guy that does YouTube tutorials based on his favorite snacks. So he'll hold up a Hot Cheetos bag and he does eyeshadows in the colors of the Hot Cheeto bags and things like that. So, I mean, there is a place for everybody, and depending on, the biggest thing it has to be is consistency. You can't upload one time a month and think that you're going to be successful doing that. You need to stay consistent. And then when I first started, I was making 2 videos a week. So I would work 70 hours a week at my consulting job, and then on the weekends I would film.
Wow.
So again, it is a big time investment, and you do have to stay up on what the products are that people want to see reviewed. You're going to have to do kind of a mixture between educational videos sometimes and makeup looks. My channel is mostly known for education and my reviews, more so because I'm not a professional makeup artist. I mean, I know how to apply it to myself, even though today I kind of look like a bag lady. That's okay. I mean, yeah, I think school definitely helped me for what I do. I'm sorry, my computer keeps going to sleep while I'm on this call. Don't know why. You just have to be, again, persistent, consistent, and you do have to develop just a thick skin, because I remember in the beginning when hardly anybody's watching, you don't really get those nasty comments. And as things come, I feel like people nowadays are especially a lot more sensitive. And you just have to know that happy, successful people aren't online leaving you a 9-page comment about how they hate you. They would have better things to do. So you just have to kind of learn to let that stuff roll off your back, or find a way to insulate yourself that you're not subjected to that, which I did with my comment moderator, because otherwise I was just wanting to kill everybody. I was being super rude, or I would want to type back some really mean comment to them. And I'm like, this is a waste of my time.
Yeah, well, I think it touches on what a great strategy, by the way, getting a comment moderator to filter out kind of the unhelpful comments, let's say, right? Yeah. And it touches on the whole point of mental health in the workplace. And I think with any amount of fame, that's a huge thing. And I'm sure our student audience has seen things on news or other media out. They probably don't watch the news, whatever teenagers watch. Celebrity, whether it's a YouTube person, a TikTok person, or a movie person, right? Or even royals these days.
Yeah.
There is this kind of onslaught of negativity, and mental health is really important in any career. And
Yeah.
I think that the challenge, if there's fame involved, is even greater. So you found a strategy that works for you. Do you have any idea? I don't know if you network with other YouTube people or anything like that. For the students out there, we had talked about a tough skin or finding things. What are some ways that they could protect their mental health if they had online haters? I don't know if that's a cool way to say it, but that's how I know.
I just call them trolls.
Okay.
Or I call sometimes in my description box, it says, don't be a skid mark, because that's what I feel like some people just use the internet as toilet paper. Okay. You just have to have a good esteem about yourself and not listen to those things. And I will say it does get hard if you're having a tough day, or you're going through a rough situation and you read all these things. Unfortunately, the most negative things can sound the loudest, because a lot of times if people love you or like you, they might not think to let me, if they're watching on a smart TV, they can't leave a comment. They'd have to go on their phone. So, but the people that can't stand you can't wait to tell you. So And again, even though that is a small percentage, it does start to feel as you grow, it feels overwhelming. If you can imagine, again, like 50,000 people telling you, you suck, I hate you. It's so I do think I've seen a lot of people that have actually had huge channels that have just walked away and quit because they just can't take it anymore. So you really have to be honest with yourself if that's something that you can handle. And every group, it's different. I feel like the beauty community is one of the more toxic ones, opposed to something like a gaming channel or things like that you could start off doing. Just the nature of the beast, I guess, of the certain audience that you would attract. But yeah, I think I would really discourage it for younger kids. I see some kids getting online, and I feel bad because you don't want to crush anybody's dreams. But I think at 15, 16 years old, you're way too young to be exposed to things like that, because you see, again, horrific things in the news. And again, it's not that those people mean those things. It's that hurt people hurt people. You just have to go and understand that it's not a you problem, and figure out how to, if it's whether words that you want to sort out, because you can do that in your comment section, where anything that people type with certain words will be held for approval that you can go through. But I mean, you're still going to have to read it, or just delete them all.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. I feel like thank you for sharing just a glimpse of the amount of skills that go into this that maybe we can't see from just watching a video. And I think that's really valuable information. And secondly, thank you so much for being vulnerable enough to talk to us about the emotional challenges of being on display and putting out content to the public, and what that means these days online. So thank you so much for your time. It was really helpful. And I saw our participation go up with you here. So just
woohoo! Don't judge me on this, everybody. It's early here.
We like real people here. Our juniors and seniors want real information. They're going into the world. So packaged stuff isn't going to help them. We want real information today. So thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining us. And we'll
no problem.
Thank you. And we're going to now take a short break for a half an hour, everyone out there. And then we will be back at 1:15 with our money hour, with what to do with your money, with Elise Breton from Millbury Federal Credit Union. All right. Thank you, everyone. Go eat some lunch. All right. Thank you again, Stephanie. Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your lunch break. We're going to be starting in 2 minutes with Elise Breton from Millbury Federal Credit Union. I'll give everyone 2 more minutes to finish up and come back in to hear some great information about what to do with your money when you get those jobs. See.
Sarah Cook. Sarah Cook.
It says Sarah Cook is in this meeting.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back for the second half of the day in the BVEF Education Room. We will be starting this hour, which is our money hour, with Elise Breton from Millbury Federal Credit Union. Thank you for coming, Elise. For those participants observing, if you could just mute yourself, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. Well, welcome, Elise. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't we quick start? It is exciting. I'm excited to talk to you about money. We've done a few events this year when it seems to come up with juniors and seniors. For some reason, they like money.
I mean, who doesn't like money, right?
Right.
That's what we all can be passionate about.
What a great point. Yeah, there's not many people who don't like it. So the first half of the day, we talked about what to do, what to look for. We talked about work culture and work and family balance and social media, resumes, interviews, all the stuff you need to land that job. And of course, once you get it or you start your career path, hopefully you're getting a paycheck, right?
Right. Hopefully.
Hopefully we're getting a paycheck at some point. So let's pick up that point in the journey here today. And so if it's someone's first job and they're going to be receiving a paycheck, or they know, let's say they just got the job, so they know a paycheck is going to come. Let's start at the beginning. What do they do? What are their first steps?
Okay, so I would recommend, your first step would be to open up a checking and a savings account. What you're going to want to do is kind of evaluate your expenses. And when I mean expenses, are you paying rent? Do you have car insurance that you have to pay monthly? Are you living on your own? Do you have to allot for groceries? Maybe you want to allot for some spending. You like to go to Dunkin' Donuts every morning and get your coffee. Add up all those expenses and you should get a number there. And I always recommend whatever that number is, give yourself, $100, $200 buffer and put money from your paycheck, direct deposit into your checking account, because your checking account you're really going to use to pay your expenses. Any excess money, and hopefully you have excess money, you can put that into a savings account and start building some funds for you to have on the side. Experts suggest that you have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses on the side, for emergency purposes. So let's say, something happens and you should lose that job, or let's say you have an unexpected car bill that you have to pay, you'll have money set aside so that you're prepared to kind of handle that.
And what is the difference between a checking account and savings account? Why can't I just keep all my money in checking so it's available to me?
You certainly can. A savings account should provide you with a little bit of interest. So the bank will actually pay you money for keeping your funds in that account. It really comes to, budgeting. I would recommend having both so that you can properly budget and properly prepare and make those choices that are going to set you up for financial success. If you're putting everything in your checking account and you're not really allotting for expenses or, coming up with a plan on how you're going to spend your money, you could put yourself in a situation where you're just spending without kind of realizing it. So it's really important to come up with a plan, and within that plan, definitely have those 2 accounts that are going to help you manage that.
Now, a long time ago when I was in high school, they did not have a class for me when I was a senior or a junior about real life expenses and budgeting. So my first budget was a disaster. Is what I thought I knew was the tip of the iceberg as far as expenses. Can you give us some advice or resources for seniors and juniors if they want to start planning things? Where should someone go who's 17, 18, entering the workforce, or even living on their own for college to get a realistic idea of what expenses might be like?
Certainly at the credit union, we could work with you hand-on and kind of get your accounts open, and then also kind of guide you and ask you appropriate questions so that you can build a budget. Definitely consult, a parent or a guardian, maybe a relative that you have that, seems to be doing well financially, and they can kind of set you up. Because there's going to be expenses that happen that you're right. You're going to have no idea that you might have to put, I don't know, the gas expenses. Like everyone, okay, well, I have to pay car insurance and I have a car loan, but you might not realize how much you're going to be spending in gas. Everyone's situation is going to be different. I think the important thing is as you get started to kind of look back and reevaluate yourself every now and then to make sure the plan that you set, you're meeting that. And if you're not meeting that, then, adjust. And it might be that, maybe you're spending too much on the extras. So you have to cut back a little bit. Maybe it's the reverse. Maybe you've budgeted, too much in expenses and you have some excess money in your checking account and you pull that back into your savings account. But, like I said, consult your financial institution. They can definitely kind of help you plan that out. Or, maybe it's someone that that can kind of guide you in that direction.
Speaking of financial institutions, you work at Millbury Federal Credit Union. Yes. And there is a difference between credit unions and banks, correct?
Yes, there is.
Could you quickly explain to us what is the difference and what might be a better fit for, a first-time account holder?
Sure. I think the benefit of a credit union is that if you're a member of the credit union, you are actually considered an owner of the credit union. So credit unions are not nonprofit organizations. So any profit that we're bringing in, we put back into our membership. And it could be in a variety of ways. It might be, expanding our footprint. So maybe we add a branch. It might be in lowering interest rates on loan products, in hiring interest rates on deposit products. Any income that we bring in, we're going to invest back into our membership, back into the credit union. And that's how we run. So it's good in the sense that, if you have an account with us, you own the credit union, you're part of us. So that's the primary difference between banks and credit unions.
Great. Thank you for that insight. And how did you get involved in banking? Do you just love money that much, or what? You're good at math? Like, how did you decide to go work at a credit union? I'm sorry, not a bank, a credit union.
I know, right? I kind of had a very different journey. I was an English lit major out of college, and I had my first job at the Blackstone Valley Chamber of Commerce. So I had networked there and met, different people. And I ended up taking an opportunity at the credit union. They had a position open. I knew, who my boss would be. So she kind of recruited me and brought me over. And I ended up staying here. I mean, I've been in banking since I was 24 years old, I believe. And it's fun. It's great. I meet people and get to teach and share experiences, mentor people in a management role. So it's been, I'm not just passionate about money. I think I'm passionate about my job and in the different aspects of it.
Yeah, and some of the aspects that you're talking about are not something that I would naturally associate with working in a financial institution. You're talking about mentoring, teaching, working with people. So, is your job satisfaction linked to the actual logistical work you do, or is it linked to your work environment?
I would say probably both. It's definitely the work environment in the sense that we are a community credit union. We do a lot within the community. I guess my job here is I do a lot of different things. It's not, probably the money part of it, the actual financial part is just a small piece of that. We do outside events that get us out in the community. We meet people constantly. We get to know our members. I hope that answered your question.
Definitely does. I think one of the things that I'm noticing throughout the interviews today is that we have people in different industries and different sectors. And there's a lot of the same answers in that people that love their jobs tend to love the relationships, and they tend to love the culture, and it's not the specific industry sometimes, although we had one person who definitely was passionate about their industry. So it's just, I think that that's wonderful insight for people, young people, as they enter the workforce or looking at college. What exactly is your title?
It's assistant vice president, branch manager, and then I also am the social media manager for the credit union too. So that's the nice thing of working for a smaller institution, is that I get, I can put my hands in many different pots, and kind of do, what I'm good at, what I'm passionate about. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And I never would have thought, in college as an English lit major that I would have ended up working for a bank. But I can tell you, I use those skills that I learned in college on a daily basis.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. So, what advice, and I know that we had talked previously, and you had a few really funny anecdotes about teenagers and young people entering your institution and not really sure what they should do. So, let me ask you, if you could give all of our students here, so we have 17 districts that are either with us now or going to be watching this recording at a later date. What advice would you give them? What is something that you would love to tell 17 and 18-year-olds about banking?
I would say definitely start with the checking and the savings account. Watch what you spend and then safeguard your information. We're in a day and age, especially with technology, that we're seeing a lot of fraud out there, scams where people are being swindled out of money. And there's a whole sector, and people are targeting young adults to do this. So I would just say, be cautious, watch what you're spending, watch your accounts, and really safeguard your information, meaning, your account numbers, your debit card information, your social security number, safeguard that so that you're not becoming a victim of theft.
And what steps could students take to safeguard their information? Is there any resources to get more concrete information, or just be careful?
Your financial institutions are definitely going to have that, whether it's handouts or, promotional information that talks about, scams that are going on. I would recommend, if you get yourself in a situation where, you think someone might be trying to scam you, call up your financial institution. We've seen it all, and we can pretty much tell you right off the bat whether, this is a scam or not. And then also, don't give your information away. People are very smart and convincing at trying to get you to give, a username and password out, or, your social security number out, whether they call and say, oh, I'm calling from the IRS, or I'm calling from your employer. I need your social security number because there's something going wrong with your paycheck. They use scare tactics to kind of get that information out of you. So don't ever give it out, whether it's on the phone, through email, through social media. Safeguard it, and then turn to a consultant, to verify if it's a real deal.
Great. Thank you so much for that advice. What I'm taking away is that if our young adults here have questions, don't know what to do, find a trusted adult, or talk to your credit union or bank if you choose to use a bank, and there's some great resources to help them transition.
Yes. Talk to an expert. That's what life's all about, right? We can't know everything. So, turn to someone that does.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Elise. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Yes, it was a pleasure talking to you too. And good luck to all the young adults out there.
All right. Thanks so much. Next up, we have Representative McKenna. I don't know if he is here. The legislators sometimes get caught up in meetings, so I will give him a minute if he is here. If not, we will move along. We have plenty to show you guys this afternoon. I don't see him, so I think we're going to move on, and I will queue up a video. So it'll go dark for about 10 to 30 seconds, and then you will see a video on entrepreneurship. Is it right for you? And this is from Marty Green from Marty Green Properties. And if Representative McKenna comes, we'll have him come on and talk to you all. I'm going to take my words back. We're not going to have a video right now. Representative McKenna is in the room. So hello.
Good afternoon.
McKenna, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Good. Last time I saw you, you were walking through the woods.
Oh, is that a good? I don't know.
Now you're in a nursery. You're like all over the place.
I am. When was I walking through the woods?
Last time you came to one of our events this fall. You were.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yep.
You're an important guy. We remember these things.
Very good.
Thanks
good memory.
for us and supporting us today.
Absolutely.
We have juniors and seniors from 17 school districts that are either on with us live. We're also live on YouTube streaming. We're streaming through Classrooms, and we're also recording this for asynchronous learning resource for later on. So, hi, thanks for coming. What inspired you to become a representative? We're going to jump right into it.
Sure. Well, I've always been involved in my community wherever I lived. Right after I graduated from college, I was involved with the Friends of the North End Parks when I lived in the North End in Boston. And that was an organization looking to kind of make sure that our community in the North End stayed clean and pristine and was well maintained. And then I moved back home to Charlton, where I grew up, and I joined the Charlton Rec Friends organization, which was a group that was aimed at bringing more recreational sports fields. So I've always kind of been involved within the communities that I lived in. And I had the opportunity to get a job for another state representative who I worked for 3 years. And I just fell in love with the ability to be a close part of the community and to give back and to help with different projects and different priorities of the local community. And at that time, the opportunity to run for office myself in Webster, where I had moved to, opened itself up, and I had been working for another rep for 3 years. So I decided to run myself. And as I said, my favorite part of the job is being involved in the local community, getting a chance to help projects. One of the projects I helped in Webster was moving a Head Start campus. So that's an early childhood campus into the town where it was really, really needed. So that type of thing is really rewarding.
Yeah, we heard earlier today that local politics, so like at the representative level, things like that, you can really make a difference in your community. Do you find that to be true?
Oh, absolutely. And I've had the opportunity to get to know the boards of selectmen, the school superintendents, the town managers, the police chiefs, the fire chiefs. So we've got a personal relationship where politics don't really matter. Partisan politics don't matter when you're talking about trying to help the fire department get a new fire engine, or the school superintendents get Chromebooks for elementary school classrooms. Politics go out the window at that point, which is a good thing. And you're absolutely able to build relationships and build friendships and get to know people, and you're more likely to help out a friend. So the more relationships and friendships you can build with different people working in different areas, the more good you can do. So that's absolutely true. Politics don't necessarily play a role when it comes to local constituent matters, which is a good thing.
It sounds like the relationships are kind of an integral part of your job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's a connection to the government. It's a connection we provide as state representatives or state senators. We provide a connection to all of these bureaucracies that can be so intimidating a lot at the times. But if Joe McKenna hopefully is not intimidating. And, if different groups have questions or concerns, one example in Sutton is the Manchog Water District is looking to do a major infrastructure project, and the water commissioners reached out and said, we don't even know where to start. Can you help? And I have contacts with the Department of Environmental Protection and can reach out and say, we need to look at how we can get some resources and some funding. And that just bridges that sometimes daunting gap between a local water district and the massive bureaucracy at the state that manages all of the statewide water districts and resources. So being able to play that role and make that connection is huge.
Well, I'm sitting in Sutton right now, so thank you for your help.
Excellent. Very good.
My local community. So in politics, we talked about local politics affect the community. It's about relationship building. What skills do you think are unique to you that have made you successful in this field?
Generally laid back, easygoing person. Things don't generally throw me off too much, so I'm pretty flexible and I like to kind of go with the flow. So a lot of times things don't go exactly according to plan, and that can be frustrating, but it also there's another avenue that might be available. So if, for example, a project doesn't get funded through the budget, maybe we pivot and start looking for grant funding. And the ability to kind of be flexible, be reachable and easy to talk to, and not take myself too seriously. And I like being in the community. I don't like being on Beacon Hill in Boston. I like being around, walking through the woods in Sutton, and being someone that is, I like to think I'm easy to talk to, easy to get a hold of, and try to pull back that veil of secrecy of the state legislature, because there is no big secret. We're just normal folks, and we like to help people out. So I like to think that my approachability, general personality, easygoing nature has been a huge asset.
Great. Thanks. It sounds like adaptability, communication, and just your passion for what you're doing and for helping the community. So that's great. What do you find most challenging about
by far the most challenging is, it's kind of twofold. One is that no matter what you do, someone's going to be upset with it. And whether that's on a political basis or even at a local level, people have such different ideas of the way that things should be done that you can never make everyone happy. And the story I tell is I could run out onto 146 in Sutton and rescue a puppy that has run out on the highway and run off the other side. And someone would be on the other side and say, well, you should have been here to stop the dog from going in the road in the first place. And did you see the traffic jam that you caused? Where were you? And so no matter what it is, there's someone who's going to have a different take, a different perspective. And it can be really frustrating because you really do try to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people, but it's nearly impossible. So being able to navigate that landscape is really challenging and can be frustrating. And hand in hand with that is the hyperpolarization of politics in today's world. And fortunately, we kind of talked about it at the local level, at state rep and state senator. You can kind of duck your head from all the national hyper political nonsense that's going on and just focus on helping the communities of Sutton and Douglas, and for me, Webster and Oxford as well. But at the end of the day, you still get tied into all of the political conversations. And what do you think about Trump this? And can you believe Biden that? And oh my goodness, Kamala Harris this? And it just never ends. And that can be really tiring and frustrating as well.
Thank you for sharing that. I think
Yeah.
it's important. Today we're trying to show things, hopeful things people can do, and also share some of the realistic information about challenges out there. So one
Yeah.
last question before I let you go today.
Sure.
For all our juniors and seniors, if you could give us some advice, what would you like to say to people entering the workforce or going to
Yeah.
college and entering the workforce from there? What advice would you give our students?
I would say make sure you take some time to do things that you enjoy. Don't just focus 110% on what you think is, I need to do this to advance a career. That's obviously important, but take some time to enjoy yourself as well, because you only got one life to live. So, I'm a big proponent of making sure that you do things that you enjoy, and oftentimes you'll find opportunities spring up from that. And also by doing that, you for me at least, I found that it led to this career because I got involved in my community, which was things I enjoyed personally while I had a separate career selling insurance right out of school. And it led me to a career in politics that I never would have imagined having. So if you take time to get involved in your local community, get involved in things that you enjoy doing, even if it's not a direct career path, you may find that it opens doors and open opportunities, and you just have a more enjoyable experience while spinning around this earth. So, that's one little piece of advice I have.
That's good advice. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Representative McKenna. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, very happy to join you, and best of luck to everyone.
Thank you. All right. Next up, well, I'm going to just transition now. We did have a video from Marty Green. I'm going to hold that just for time's sake at this time, and we're going to watch a video from GZA, which is an engineer perspective. So it will be up in about 10 seconds. Next live speaker will be at 1:45. Joseph Vatisse from Unibank. What lifestyle do you want?
had a big seminar for diversity, equity, and inclusion. You're going to have a successful company. You're going to want to draw resources from as diverse a pool of candidates as possible. And so that, you don't want to just limit yourself to, looking at one set of colleges because they're the best engineering schools and not look at other schools. And you don't want to, limit yourself to looking at one type of candidate because truthfully, diversity is the sort of spice of life, and we pride ourselves on that. And that's how we're, one of the many ways we're a very successful company. One of the most important things is having a work-life balance, having a balance between work, home life, and your work life, and being able to have a separation there as well. In particular, GZA is great. They're very flexible. If you have any sort of issues, they're certainly very understanding. If you have to bring your kids somewhere, or if you have a doctor's appointment, or if you're sick, or if you need to go visit a relative, or you need to leave early someday, they're very understanding of that, and know that people have personal lives, and it's important to allow people to have those lives so that they can contribute more to the professional life as well. And it's important to have that sort of balance. So it's a very open and flexible work culture. Some signs that you could look for to figure out if it's going to be a good work culture for you would be how they treat their employees, what kind of benefits they offer. I know it seems kind of obvious, but you want to look for somewhere that is going to give you what you need, whether it's medical benefits or a 401k or something like that. But it's not only the financial benefits that you'd be looking for. You'd be looking for what sorts of things do people within the company do? Do they interact with each other on a personal basis? Do they play softball together? Do they do any sort of other activities? What sorts of groups are there within the company, if they exist, that you can be a part of? And I guess, that's sort of one aspect of it. And I guess what you would also want to look for, is it something you really want to do? You need to figure out what you want to do first. And that's the hardest thing coming out of schools, because nobody really knows, or not many people really know what they want to do coming out of school. And you sort of take a guess, take a leap, and start doing something and say, yeah, this is something I really enjoy doing, or I definitely don't want to do this. And it's pretty rare, I think, that people land right in that perfect job right out of school. So sometimes it takes a little trial and error. So I think just knowing about the company that you're applying to, do your research, look at their website, look at the types of things that they do, the types of clients they serve, if that's what they do, the type of community activities they may be involved in. Do they have a sort of a charitable giving, group, or what kind of things do they do besides their actual role as a company that would keep you interested? Do they have community service? Do they participate in STEM events to help just bring people into the industry in general from a young age? So that's something that's pretty important to look for.
Hello, everyone. We're just going to stop that early to keep on track with our schedule for today. Just so you all know, all of the videos, the pre-recorded content from all the different companies is going to be available on our YouTube channel. You're welcome to look up Blackstone Valley Education Foundation, and you will find all of our resources there. We'll also make sure that your schools get them as well. Right now, we're going to move on to Joseph Vitiz. I hope I'm saying that right, from Unibank. Welcome, Joseph. Should I call you Joe or Joseph?
I go by Joe.
All right, that's easy.
Start with that.
So what is your position at Unibank?
So at Unibank, I'm a consumer lending supervisor. So pretty much what I do is I handle all the consumer loans. So personal loans, auto loans, home equity lines of credit, home equity loans. So the branches, what they do is they'll take the application, they'll talk to the customer, they get all the documents, comes over to me. I underwrite all the loans, see if we're going to go forward with them or not. And then I also have a processor under me who's the one that's processing the loan, and I oversee the entire transaction and process.
Interesting. So today we are going to talk about lifestyle. And this applies to you because you see all the consumers. So we are consumers, right? When we come to a bank and say, I would like a personal loan because I want to go buy some, I don't know, a Gucci bag. Is that a good reason to take a loan? I would like that lifestyle.
I would say no, that is not a good reason.
No.
That is
Okay.
opposite of a good reason.
All right. Okay. I won't go take a loan out for that. But when people are coming in, they're essentially taking out loans to support what they've chosen as a lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So people starting out, our juniors and seniors today, they're starting out and they're starting to think about what they'd like to do in the world, who they'd like to be. And part of that is thinking about what lifestyle they might like to have. So could you talk to us a little about maybe some things they should consider when they're thinking about what lifestyle they want?
So when you look at a lifestyle, you want to focus on the necessities. Your necessities are your clothes, your transportation, your housing, your food. That's pretty much the primary things, but you don't want to go too deep into it. So you don't want to focus on, a lot of young kids, they focus on their appearance. Well, appearance is your bare minimum. It's not going out and buying 10 pairs of $100 sneakers because you want to go out and try to impress somebody or you really like it. You want to get the clothes that are your basic necessities. And it's the same with food. You need to assign to what type of lifestyle you want to live with food. You want to eat organic food? It's going to cost more money. But at the end of the day, it'll probably save you money too on your medical bills because you're also eating healthier.
That's a good point. And now when I think of lifestyle, I'm old. So when I was young, there was a show called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, which I loved. But these days, I don't think that show's around anymore, but there is a lot on the internet and media content in general that's showcasing different types of lifestyle, whether it's, out in California living large or whether it's on a farm in the Midwest, what type of lifestyle or what do I need to do to get if I want to own a ranch or if I want to have something very fancy like a Lamborghini or things like that? How do those people get those things?
Well, first off, you need to decide what type of lifestyle you want. And once you decide what type of lifestyle you want, you can work towards your goals to get there. So if you want that luxury type lifestyle with some of the things you were saying, the Lamborghini, you're going to need to have a high paying job or some source of income that's able to sustain that lifestyle. And you're also going to need to cut your expenses low with certain areas if you're not able to get that income. So ways to do that would be take out less debt you have, less monthly expense you have to do. If you want a Lamborghini and you don't make a lot of money, you might have to live in a bad area of town, which also has a low rental or low property taxes, or the value of a house isn't that high. If you want to own a ranch, you might just have to not pay for expensive things. You might not have to go out to eat every single night. You might have to not wear the most up-to-date clothing, not have the newest iPhone, not get all these luxury type toys that you want to be able to achieve that type lifestyle. If you make a lot of money and that's the lifestyle you want, you just got to be able to make sure that you're able to keep up with that lifestyle, which means having that income to back it up or adjusting the expenses.
So earlier today, we did a whole segment on how to turn your passion into a career. We've done a lot about work culture, about things like that. And money is kind of this balance with passion sometimes. Like, should a student go towards their passion even if it's not going to make a lot of money? Or should they be considering the lifestyle they want and balance what they're interested in?
It's a tough question. That's always the catch-22.
Getting tougher as the day goes on.
Yeah, literally. Well, here's the thing. If you focus on your passion, they say if you focus on your passion, you're really not working because you're doing something you love every day and you look forward to it. you also don't want to do something that makes a lot of money and you're miserable and can't wait for it to be done. If you decide to go down that route, I would have an exit strategy to be able to get to the lifestyle you need without working that job, which would include saving and investing the majority of your money so that you can exit in 5 years and go do something you really want. Because you're going to gain all this experience in that big career that's making all this money, and you're going to have a lot of cash at the end, but you may not enjoy the journey to get there. But then on the other side, when you're doing a job that doesn't pay that well, but you love it, it really doesn't matter because you could work until you're 7 years old doing it if you truly love it.
That is great. And probably the answer to that question is an individual answer for each
It really is.
on what that balance is like. But that was a good shot at that answer. Thank you. That was a good insight.
For
Thank
me,
you.
if I can put a personal touch on it, for me, I would rather do a job that makes a lot of money for 5 to 10 years, because if I invest my monies correctly, if I keep my expenses low, in 10 years, I maybe could set up to retire early so that I can enjoy what I want and don't have to worry about anything. That's also living a frugal type lifestyle along the process. But I get more time to do what I want while not having to worry about money, instead of doing what I love and having to worry about money the entire time.
Yeah. So there's some planning that goes into that.
Yeah, a lot of planning.
A lot of planning. If a person decided, you know what, I'm gonna look up a job with a great starting salary. I'm gonna do something that I don't hate it, but maybe I don't love it, and I just want to make some cash for 5 or 10 years, and then I want to invest and maybe do something different after that. Where would they find information? How would you figure out even how to invest? Or is that something you would go to college for? Or is that something people can learn independently?
You could go to college, but majority of the people that I know that go to college for finance don't know much about personal finance. It's really an individual thing. You need to read up on it. There's a movement that, if anyone's interested, it's called the FIRE movement. I don't know if anyone's heard it. Basically what it is you live a frugal lifestyle, you work, maximize your earnings now, and then you're able to retire at a young age. It's Financial Independent Retire Early. I think that's what it stands for. So there's tons of articles, tons of blogs, there's tons of investing books. You can read Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, which is a good book. Any of Dave Ramsey's books, The Millionaire Next Door, awesome book. If anyone wants to read that, it talks about how millionaires live, which most of them are frugal, and you'll never know a millionaire because they wear 20-year-old jeans and a t-shirt half the time. So you don't need to get an education to learn that. I mean, it does help, but at the same time too, if you're motivated and passionate and want to do it, you'll find the resources necessary to get it.
And can you just mention the name of that movement again, in case there's some interested students who didn't have their pencils ready?
FIRE, so F-I-R-E, financial, whatever I said the first time, I can't remember it off the top of my head.
That's what we have.
Financial Independent Retire Early, I think that's what it is.
Okay, great. So you mentioned real quick that the daily life of a millionaire, they might be in incognito, that maybe it doesn't look like Kardashians or something like that. So can you talk to me about that a little bit? Why do you think millionaires are frugal? I don't think that that's the general perception.
Because a lot of millionaires, they make their money by working hard, and they either have a business or they just spend a lot of their time working. So they don't really have a lot of time to focus on the things that the community and people around them will deem as being wealthy. And most of the time they don't really care. They just want to do what's best for them and their family. And with that, it's to save their money, to live a frugal lifestyle. I know the Millionaire Next Door was a dissertation written back in the 90s. And the #1 car millionaires owned, I believe, was a Jeep Liberty. #2 is a Ford Focus. So cars that you see quite common on the road are what these millionaires are owning.
Interesting. So before you leave us today, do you have any advice for our juniors and seniors? whether it's
Um,
personal or from your work. Anything you want to share with us?
some personal advice would be you're going into college. The number one mistake that I see in work by looking at loan applications and personally is a lot of people, they go into these careers that they're not sure if they really want to do it, and they spend all this debt. And you spend the next 10, 15 years paying somebody back, and you have to work, and you might not want to or do what you want to do, but you kind of have to do it at this point because you have to pay back that debt. So if you don't know what you want to do, not a problem. Just don't spend $100,000 trying to figure out what you want to do. All it takes is a library card to go read up on something you think could be interesting, and then spending that money when you decide that's what you want to do.
That is some good advice, Joe. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for spending some time with us today and giving us some financial insight. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, have a good day. And next up, we have Lisa Conant from the Hanover Theater, who is going to talk to us about STEM careers in the arts. I see you, Lisa. Hi, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to talking with you and talking to everybody, answering any questions that people have. And, you know, I'm, for those of you who I haven't met, which I know that might sound strange, but the Hanover Theater and Conservatory for the Performing Arts welcomes hundreds of thousands of people through our doors every single year. And I've been fortunate enough to be with the organization since our grand opening. And so truly, for that behind the scenes sneak peek, it's a radio program I host every single week for the last decade about behind the scenes. I have to say that technology has a very special place in my heart as a VP of communications. And I think that that is something that might surprise people. But actually, creative careers, especially in the performing arts, there is always a need and a niche for technology and people who are fantastic when it comes to all of the emerging technologies that are evolving every day. And I like when I was thinking about, what really kind of drives it home for people? And if I was a junior or senior, what would make a difference for me? How could I visualize it? And then I was starting to think about, okay, so what's your favorite movie that you've seen that has like the most unbelievable special effects you could ever imagine, and you really felt like you were part of the action? Or maybe it's a video game. And the challenge that the performing arts and theater in particular has is we bring those experiences to a live theater audience so that the people in the audience are able to experience that in some way. And there are some really famous examples. I'm not sure how much theater our people here today have seen, but you know, if you've seen A Christmas Carol, which I know many students have seen A Christmas Carol, you might think about the mist or the fog coming across the stage, or you might think about, how about the set? How about the fact that it rolls in and out? How about the fact that we have to pack up those sets and we move them across the country, and we have to unpack them and pack them and build them over and over and over again? So there are so many parts of engineering that are just crucial for the show to go on and for people to enjoy it. And then there are the basics like sound engineers and light engineers. Without sound and lights, it is a dead, quiet, sad, scary experience for you know, and it brings us back to anytime we've had to make a presentation in front of a group, right? And it can be right there in the auditorium and the mic's not working, or the PowerPoint presentation. That's probably like so 80s, 90s of me to say PowerPoint, but you know, the video that you want to show isn't playing. And all of a sudden, everybody is watching that stress. And so people who have the technical skills that can produce that content are so in demand in every industry, not just the performing arts, but every industry. And, you know, then it comes back down to data and math, because without my math skills, that, trust me, I was always put in those advanced math classes, but I never did my homework, and I regret that now. So my advice, unlike the last guy, is do your homework, especially when it has to do with math, because even if you think that you don't need it, you do. I still need my math skills, doing budgets and forecasting and figuring out how much we can afford to pay people to do a production. Those are very real life skills that start with the basics and advance from there. And it advances to there to making decisions about how we're going to advertise and reach people with our messages, and digital marketing and social media, and where do we invest, and who's watching and who's engaging and what's effective, and how are we going to spend those dollars so that as a nonprofit, we get to, or any business for that matter, we get to the most targeted audiences. So the performing arts in general is a wonderful place to be, because, I started my career in financial services, and it was a good money maker. It's interesting. I was listening to our last speaker, and it was a great money maker. And I was doing so well before I was 30. I was on such a great fast track. And let me tell you, it was just soul crushing after a while,
And that's okay. So part of the reason we're having so many speakers is because we're all individuals.
Yes.
Things work for some people that don't work for others, and vice versa. So I think it's great that you guys are back to back and saying, this works for me, this doesn't work for me, because that's exactly what we're looking.
But you can still make smart financial choices even when you're not making much money. You can still participate in the 401k and reduce your pre-tax income so that you're paying less taxes. There are ways that you can make it work. I think that there's so much to be said for loving what you do. And actually, I started in college as a dance major, and truthfully, I like to eat and drank more than really most dance majors. So it really wasn't a good fit for me in the long run. So I became a comparative literature major because, again, I didn't really love math, although evidently I was pretty good at it. I always got the jobs in financial services. Every job I got was in a bank. It was I worked for a financial newswire service. Then from there, I worked for an agency doing mutual fund PR and marketing. And then I started my own business specializing in mutual fund prospectus and simplified prospectus writing. So yes, the nest egg, the nut, I could get that great experience in a drier industry where I was paying my bills. But I always liked elements of what I was doing. I was always able to find the creativity that I personally need to feel fulfilled. And I worked for this great company, Business Wire, is bought out by Warren Buffett a while ago, and it continues to be successful today. And they did a lot of really great marketing and training for their sales about how do you really stay motivated, and how do you really think about what you're doing in the world as something that you enjoy, and how do you work through those things that you find tedious that you have to do. Like data crunching is something you have to do. Homework is one of those things you have to do, whether somebody's paying you to do it or whether you're doing it on your own. But life is an exciting challenge. And so my advice is to honestly do what you love, because you're going to spend a lot of time doing it. And the key to success, I think, is that 10,000 hours. We always hear that it takes 10,000 hours to greatness. And so if you're going to be doing something for 10,000 hours, make sure it's something that you love and you can feel joy and pride in, because the truth is, as adults, we sometimes spend, it's a fact, we spend more time with our work associates and doing our work than we do with our families for a really long period of our lives. So that's where everybody needs to find their balance. As you were saying before, they need to find their balance of what you need to pay your bills and what you need to feed your soul, so that you can survive on that. So that was a lot.
That was a lot. It was all great though. Love it. Such great insight and perspective. So one of the things I heard is that you being part of the performing arts community and also being in STEM is a nice match for you, because it's matching your more kind of logistical math skills, and you're in a creative environment which feeds your soul. And
yes, And that is what I look for in everybody that I hire as well, as I like to get that balance of creative and analytical skills, because we really all need to think in both directions.
This is true, especially these days, because there's so much crossover with all the different skills and all the different jobs these days. So probably, and I'm just so you know, everyone out there, if you have questions for Lisa, feel free to put them in chat. But one of my questions was, I know that a lot of kids and teenagers get involved in the arts through school because it's an opportunity, it's available to them. And I see a lot of adults that kind of make that transition, whether it's straight from high school or whether it's from college or military for that matter. And it is less available. The arts are less available, and they lose that bit of creative environment, and they're forever kind of sad about that, right? So go ahead. I was going to say, for those that love acting in their high school performances, or they love being in choir, but we all know that not everyone is going to be a star actress. So probably if they're looking at balance, unless that's really what you need to do with your life, probably not that balance of work and family and finances and things like that. So you mentioned a few different careers really fast, but could we just talk about all the different types of career choices and people are involved? I heard you talk about audio, so like sound engineering, design. What else did I hear? I heard marketing.
That's right. So if we break it down, right, let's break it down to the performance itself, right? So as an audience member, you leave wherever you walk into the venue, there are people who are greeting you. There are people in the box office. As you walk through, there's sound coming at you from the universe, right? Then you have videos that are showing you things on screens. That's all part of the marketing. That's part of the back end. But once you actually sit down and you watch what's on stage, you hear what's happening. And that is actually a very complex system. So you need a sound engineer who understands the acoustics of whatever building you're in, and as well as the type of sound that you're trying to reproduce and what kind of effects you're looking for. Very carefully on cues. So it's a very integrated part that's being called by somebody backstage. Okay. Then you've also got lights. You've also got the set itself. So there are all sorts of parts that go into the set. There's the architecture, there's the engineering, there's the movement, there's the special effects, whether it's a flying type of special effect or whether it's a chemical type of special effect. So right there, just before you even seen an actor get on the stage, there are a lot of careers in addition to the people who have prepared for that to happen in the first place and who have really gone through the whole design process of how do you create this set, but also pack it and move it and recreate it in a way that it's going to retain its strength and it's still going to deliver the desired effects. Then you do have all of the revolving pieces, for the marketing and the venue management and the collaboration with the city officials, the public relations, as well as just finance in general. Every business and nonprofit organization needs to think about money, right? There's nothing without being able to support itself, whether that's in fundraising or ticketing or advertising. And there is a lot of analysis and data that goes into attracting the audience that is interested in the production that you have, in the way that they're going to respond to it and that they will see it or hear it. So there's a lot of marketing, there's a lot of production, there's a lot of engineering, there's a lot of math in every way you could ever imagine. There's also a lot of color and stagecraft, and our conservatory does offer classes in some of those introductory technical and theater and design skills just to get people on the right track. I also wanted to touch on something that you had said about, as adults, a lot of times we don't have a chance to, be creative, and we lose that entry point. One of the most important things about performing arts is it teaches us other skills that make us stronger professionals. Like an improv class teaches people how to give that elevator speech right away. So, or a tap class really connects with the mind body. So Jocelyn, I think you need to take a tap class.
Me? I took tap classes.
Oh, well, I think it might be time to start again.
Well, the conservatory offers adult classes, I think.
Yes, they do.
Isn't it, right? So, and it sounds like those other classes might be great for someone who's interested in the arts, but maybe doesn't foresee themselves becoming a performer. They might take one of the technical classes at the Hanover Conservatory and test their interest in that area.
Absolutely. And that's a great way to see whether, so lighting, what does that mean? And it's about how the light falls on different colors and illuminates and creates effects on the stage. There's again a lot of math and engineering that goes into that, and science, which is awesome.
It is awesome. All of the subjects come together kind of in theater.
Yes, they do.
Right?
They do. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us and kind of sharing that. It's so much information. STEM in the arts is one of those things that isn't talked about, but it's, as you explained, it's throughout. The moment people walk in, it's behind the scenes, it's everywhere. I was terrible at tap, so you got me on that one. But if the students are interested in learning more, they can go to the Hanover Theater and Conservatory for the Performing Arts website and look up any classes, and I'm sure you would be responsive if anyone reached out.
Absolutely. Everybody stay safe and have a fantastic day. Be well.
All right. Thank you so much, Lisa. Next up, we have Jason Walker from Remake 4.0 for You Don't Need Overalls for Manufacturing. Hi, Jason. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. My throat's getting a little scratchy. I've been talking a lot today.
I bet. Well, let me take over for a couple of minutes for you. Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Walker. I work for Remake 4.0. We are a state-funded grant tasked with changing the perception of manufacturing and manufacturing careers, more importantly, and increase the workforce pipeline. Manufacturing in Massachusetts is doing so well because of a great governmental climate and mass business incentives. Manufacturing is one of the few industries that has not slowed down during the pandemic. For some companies, they've actually sped up their production, and there's been a lot of increased production because they've been making such essential products like PPEs, masks, and other safety equipment. So there's been a lot of industries that have slowed down: food and beverage, restaurant industry, things like this, where people that were working in these fields really have been hit hard, where manufacturing has sped up. There might have been a week or two where it kind of slowed down a little bit when some rules and regulations were put in place. But as soon as those rules and regulations were put in place, things sped right back up, specifically with a lot of companies that I work with that transitioned to make the essential products that we are all using now. You know, how many masks are we seeing every single day now? These face shields, if you go into banks or anything, they have these plastic walls. None of those were being produced a year ago. And a lot of companies in Massachusetts have taken up for everybody's safety to start making those type of products. Remake 4.0 is, in fact, it's a revolutionary partnership between employers, educators, and workforce boards that's geared towards making Massachusetts an epicenter of America's manufacturing. Massachusetts has led the nation's revolutions with bold actions since our country's inception, and Remake 4.0 is driving to the new industrial revolution. Our trainings invite the daring, the bold, and free thinkers to experience and learn to make the necessary change and build a career. Our programs are designed to spark the interest and ignite passion for experienced workers and new workers alike, building skills and attitudes that make workplaces thrive. And that's one of the big things that we definitely like to address is soft skills, which we think in a lot of times, no matter what industry or what job any of you get out of school, having good soft skills is going to be a huge benefit. Just knowing to show up on time, be accountable for your work, good communication. All these things will help you no matter what industry you get into. They're going to help you get a job. There's no quicker way to turn off a job opportunity than to be late for an interview. Being 2 or 3 minutes late for an interview can make all the difference in the world. Manufacturing itself is a key foundation for the U.S. economy. We have a great infrastructure for manufacturing here, specifically in Massachusetts, and the central Worcester region is a catalyst for the manufacturing in Massachusetts. It has a rich history of economic and community development. We have major industries here in Central Mass, such as medical device manufacturing, which is a tremendously important industry. Obviously, everybody gets sick. People need to make the medical devices, whether it's blood testers or thermometers or things like this. Anything that's going to go into your body is held to such a high standard in the manufacturing industry. But we also have semiconductor, food and beverage like Polar, and Tabletop Pies, which are 2 national brands, both headquartered and manufactured right here in the Worcester area. And there's also some aerospace and defense that's not as big, but it's still here. Some of the companies that we work with: AimTech, AIS, Blue Hive, Cogmetics, that's a medical device manufacturer, Eaton, they do semiconductors, IPG Photonics, Ken's Dressing, one of the best salad dressings and barbecues that you'll ever get are made by Ken's. They make a lot more than just Ken's. There's a lot of different brand names that they make, so there's a good chance you've all had Ken's products before. Luco, Phillips Precision, as I mentioned, Polar, Saint-Gobain, Tabletop Pies, Wirefab. These all cover different industries in manufacturing, because what you don't understand or may not understand is literally, if you look around where you're sitting right now, every single thing that you're looking at was manufactured somewhere. That's what manufacturing is. Somebody comes up with an idea or a product, then there's something is made. They make it one time to see its functionality, and if they need to be any improvements, and then if the product is wanted, the product is mass produced. That's what manufacturing is. Everything from your cell phone to your cell phone case, to the remote for your TV, to the laptop that you're looking at me on, the furniture you're sitting on, every single thing that you use every day is manufactured somewhere. And I don't think people realize how big of an industry manufacturing is. But when you think about every single thing is manufactured, it's pretty quick to figure out, wow, it's a tremendously large industry.
It's huge, right? And I had no idea that Massachusetts was such a leader, or certainly that Worcester is a catalyst. That's interesting.
Yeah, Worcester is definitely the catalyst. There's a lot of stuff that is conceptualized out in Boston, as far as some of the high tech companies and whatnot. But when it comes to the actual manufacturing of things, Central Massachusetts is huge.
Cool. Now, when I think of manufacturing, and I know this idea is out of date because you're here and you're telling me you don't need overalls. So when I think of manufacturing, I'm thinking like an assembly line or a machine's coming by me and I have repetitive motions where I'm putting something together. Is that not accurate?
That is accurate, but it's not what you're picturing. There's a stigma that surrounds manufacturing. There's a misconception that the jobs are low paying, dirty, dangerous, with no upward mobility. But manufacturing is actually moving so fast into the future. A lot of students might, right now might be dreaming about, I'd really like a career where, every day I'm creating and fighting robots. I'm not sure what kind of career path that is, but I can tell you, if you want to program, design, and work with robots every single day, the manufacturing industry is a place to do that, because it's not that they need less workers. They actually need more skilled workers, because 10 or 20 years ago, the people that were doing the manufacturing were doing it. Now they're programming, they're doing repairs, they're setting up things, and it's a lot higher as far as training level. You can get into manufacturing walking in the door with zero experience, but there are careers out there in manufacturing that take skills and lessons and teaching to fully appreciate. And one of the things that people don't know is the people that did do those down and dirty jobs 10 or 20 years ago, those people are retiring pretty quickly. And that's one of the big things that the manufacturing industry is dealing with, trying to get new employees up and upskilled as quickly as possible, so to replace people that are going to be retiring in the next 10 or 15 years. So there is a vacuum that's created by this, and just walking in the door to a manufacturing company without any experience, within 5, 7, 10 years, the company is willing to invest in their employees based on the quality and quantity of their work, based on their soft skills. But if the person goes in and proves themselves to the company is going to invest, the company is going to educate and upskill those people. And there's careers there without any burden of a student loan that you can have. And I'll tell you what, making, excuse me, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 without having to pay back $200,000 is a lot more money, because you don't have to make that student loan payment every month.
It's nice to be debt free. It also sounds like manufacturing, there's places for entry level, straight out of high school. Also, people that maybe have a specific interest and want to get a degree, there's places for them as well. We do have a question about salary ranges.
Mhm.
Could you give us an idea of salary ranges from those entry level positions that don't require a degree up through the top there?
Sure. Entry level positions are going to start, $15, $16, $17, $18 an hour. It depends. Like if you have zero work experience, it's going to be a little bit lower. But if you've worked at McDonald's or the mall or something like that, and you've had a year or two of work experience, and you understand what it's like to be accountable and showing up on time and not taking breaks and not leaving early and not counting out sick, it can be a little bit higher. But like any entry level position, the pay rate is not going to be great. But the great thing about manufacturing is there is a place to grow. At McDonald's or the mall, there's only so far you can grow. You can walk into a manufacturer right out of high school and put in 2 or 3 years. And if based on your presence and what you bring to the table, maybe they want to send you to school, and they'll take on the student loan and they'll pay for your school for you to become a mechanical engineer or an electrical engineer. And there's 1,000 different types of engineers you can be. But going to school and learning how to be an engineer, then all of a sudden that career path opens up and there's a lot of options. And when you think of manufacturing, I work with people every day that aren't doing actual manufacturing work, that started off on the manufacturing floor and then they grew into IT, they grew into HR. Anything that a manufacturing company does, there's a job for it. Sales, HR, IT, repair, maintenance. There's any type of job you can think of is in a manufacturing company, because if they don't have the sales team to sell their products, then there's not going to be anything there. If they don't have an IT team to keep their machines up and running and their inter-office things running, it's not going to be there. They have HR teams to onboard people and to let people know when they're ready for a raise or a promotion. So any type of job that you can think of, you can find in manufacturing. And it might start off being a machine operator and working there for a year or two, and then saying, you know what, this isn't the career path I want. I'm glad it got me here, but I've been at this company for 2 years, and I can go to them and say, I'd like to learn IT. And instead of letting you go, they might say, look, why don't you go to school for IT? We'll pay for your IT. And then when you have completed that, now you've been here 3 years. We know you, we trust you, we like you. We'd love to transfer you over into our IT department.
That's great. The growth potential is really a subject that we haven't hit on yet today. So thank you so much for bringing that up, because that is really important when you're starting out, and really any time in your career, that you look at your ability to grow within the company. It sounds like manufacturing specifically in Central Massachusetts has huge growth potential for lots of different candidates.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what a lot of the companies say when they're looking for an employee. They want to find someone that is willing to invest in them so the company can invest in their employees. It's kind of a symbiotic thing. They don't want someone that's coming in 5-10 minutes late, leaving early, calling out sick. They want someone that's there on time, accountable for their work. And then the companies are willing to invest in them too, because it helps everybody.
That's great. So our time is almost up. If you had to give the young adults here, the juniors and seniors, a piece of advice, whether they're entering the workforce, going to college, or the military, what would you share with them?
My advice would be probably counterproductive to what I've just said, but at your age, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, there are so many options out there. Try different jobs, try different industries. I know people say, once you find a job you love, you never have to work again. But how do you know if you're doing the job you love unless you try a couple of different things? There's tremendous opportunities out there, whether it's HVAC work or plumbing or electricians, and all these jobs, you don't need a college education, can put in a little bit of apprenticeship time, do a little, field work with your hands. All of those careers have a tremendous financial advantage, and the advantage that you can learn by doing these things for a year or two, when you're 35 or 40 years old and there's a problem at your house, you don't have to pay someone $700 to come and fix it for you, because you learned how to do some basic plumbing or some basic electric work. So between 18 and 24, try everything, figure out what you like.
That's great advice. Thanks, Jason. And if anyone wants more information about Remake 4.0, any of your programs, or information on manufacturing in general, where should they go?
You can go to our website. It's remakema.com, remakemassachusetts.com.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Jason, for sharing your time with us. That was some great information. I'm just checking for more questions, but we're all set. So thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
You too.
Up next, we have a couple of videos. We're going to first share the Marty Green Properties video that I had teased earlier, and then we had Representative McKenna come in. So I will cue that up for you next. And following that, we'll have a video from MEFA, which is the Massachusetts Financial Aid for Education.
I have a property management business in which I manage properties for commercial and multifamily property owners throughout Central Mass. And I've got, 3 or 4 different agents that work with me. And it's a really exciting time to be in real estate. I had spent 10 years as executive director of the Blackstone Valley Chamber of Commerce. When I left the chamber, I immediately went to get my license because it was because of all the commercial industrial experience and retail and working with small business people. It was a natural transition. So I've done a lot, in addition to the chamber. Like I said, I was a social worker. I ran for state rep. I was a selectman, and I have my undergraduate degree is in urban studies, but I have a master's in public administration. When I was a kid, my dad, amongst his many companies and work life, he had a real estate business, and I had spent a summer raking dirt in one of his housing developments, getting it ready. So I was familiar with the real estate industry from that, and it was just a natural flow for me in terms of, sort of my work life. I had decided I was never going to work for anybody else again, even though when at the chamber, you work for a board of directors, and but I decided that I was going to be my own boss, or I could dictate who my clients are, who I want to work with, where I want to work. That was something that I was going to do. I can dictate my own schedule. And I can, it's very simple that way. I mean, I reap the reward. If things are not easy, or not going well, like they were in 2006, 7, and 8, when I thought about saying, my wife and I had a conversation about, does this make sense? And she was my biggest supporter and said, we're all in. I also benefited from, and I still do, not necessarily mentoring. They were mentoring relationships then, but now they're business colleagues who I can rely on for advice, for, just run a different idea by, whether it be an investment or, walking through, the cost benefit analysis for a potential client. If I get a question about it, I get people I can rely on. Not that smart. So I really need smarter people around me. Responsible for the success of my business. So if how I develop and grow and maintain and nourish and long-term relationships with my clients is on me. One that always comes to mind for me is to know how to do research, right? To always know how to either help yourself solve a problem or help your client solve a problem. I run into my friends of mine. One of the best classes I had in college was a research class. We had to do, it was really, really hard. I think we had to do 30 research projects in like a 10-week period. Mm-hmm. And they were all different. And what they did was they taught us how to think, to analyze, to identify other resources that can assist you in solving them. And those other resources are, all right, who do you know, right? That may be able to answer this question. It's not always on the internet, and it may be, right? But you get, when you do research on the internet, this, I talked about the Zillow thing, right? Some people have been very successful with Zillow. I wasn't. So you need to be able to research in terms of what's going to be successful for you and how you want to run and manage in your business. The other thing is always have smarter people around you. Here's the interesting thing about me in real estate. So always looking for people who want to get into real estate. This is what I recognize. I am not a good trainer. If someone wants to come into the industry and they want someone to hold their hand and train them, I'm not the guy. If you want me to help you, if you're if you're so self-reliant and you can teach yourself and not be worried about calling me up and say, hey Marty, I got this question, I'm your guy. And I'm truly blessed and I love what I do. And I'm sitting in my basement. I do the laundry, you know what I mean? I pick my, not that I pick my schedule, but I can manage it. And in the last year, it was not it's difficult for me, with the pandemic as other industries. And I love it. It's fun. You got to be able to let go of stuff and just move, And so for young people, knowing that nothing is going to be what it is today, how it is today is going to be tomorrow. I mean, well, tomorrow, but a year or two from now, right? It's just, we really learned that with the pandemic, things are going to change. And I don't know how it's going to be for your kids, or, my kids are in their late, mid to late 20s, but how life is going to be for them in 10 years. But there's always going to be real estate. Just have faith and be a good person.
Julie Shields Rutina, and I am the Director of College Planning, Education, and Training at MIFA. So the most important thing I would love to let all of you know right now is that you're at this new stage of your life, thinking about your future, and maybe thinking about college or some other type of post-secondary training, or maybe a job. As far as college goes, what I want to say is there is money for college, and it can be a big, scary thing without knowing that. The most important step you can take right now to make sure that you're applying for a lot of the money out there is to complete the FAFSA. It's the free application for federal student aid, and that is really your ticket to applying for money for college. Some colleges might require another form called the CSS profile, and if they do, complete that as well. But you want to complete that as soon as possible, definitely by the deadlines of the colleges. One other thing I'll mention is that sometimes student loans are a part of the money you'll receive in a financial aid offer from colleges. So just arm yourself with knowledge, really understand what you're borrowing, what your monthly payment will be when you graduate, and make sure the career, the path that you're thinking about will work in being able to pay off that debt. There's lots of free information for you. I work for MIFA. MIFA.org has a wealth of good information for you. And if you are interested in looking into the federal aid and federal student loans, studentaid.gov is another great website. So good luck.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed those videos. We have a surprise guest with us today. We just got a text from Representative Frost saying that he'd like to join the party today. So hello, Representative Frost. I'm so glad you were able to join us.
Oh, well, thank you very much. A little bit of a crazy day, but I'm glad we were able to make it work out.
I'm so glad to see you too. Thank you for joining us. Just a real quick, we have 17 school districts joining us for this event, whether it's live right now, some are live streaming via YouTube, and some of the districts are using the recording for asynchronous learning. As you know, our school districts have crazy schedules right now. So you're reaching a lot of people. It's juniors and seniors. So real quick, do you have any advice for our graduating seniors or juniors that are coming up?
Excuse me. Yes. Figures.
That's okay.
you know, I think the biggest thing is try to understand you don't know what you don't know yet. Right. You know, and there's a lot of things that are going to be happening, and you're at a great time in your life where there's so much going to be happening in the future for you, and there's so many opportunities. And I believe what you really, need to do is just recognize that, hey, it's okay. You don't know everything. And listen, I have 2 kids in college now and a junior in high school, and as much as they believe they know everything, they don't. And there's going to be a lot of challenges ahead. And I would say, some of the biggest things you can do is pay attention to finances, pay attention to what you're doing, whether it's for loans, what about credit cards, how to balance that checkbook. Get off to a good start financially, no matter where you go, the college path, the job path, or both, or the military, what have you. That is probably the biggest thing. If you can get off to a good foot there, that's going to pay off dividends to you when you're in your 30s and your 40s, 50s, and so on. I know that seems like a long time away, but it comes up quick.
That's great
High
advice.
five.
And that's such an important thing to know, that you don't know everything, and that's an okay thing. It's an okay thing to say, and you're going to go learn more, which is helpful whether you're 17, 18, or 40 or 50, right?
Exactly. There's always something you're learning. There's always something that when you get older, you sit back and you say, geez, I wish when I was younger, I realized this, or I appreciated what other people were saying. And I wish I'd done some things. Sometimes I was done things a little bit differently when I was in my teens and my 20s that could have put me in a better position in my 30s and 40s and 50s. So, or maybe even older. So, like when you get those jobs and they have a 401k option or something else, put money into it, especially when you're in your 20s. Okay, don't ignore those opportunities. Put money aside. Little things like that can be huge for you. That it doesn't seem convenient right now at times, but like I said, time does fly, and now's an opportunity to put yourself in a great position, not only for yourself as an individual, but maybe your future family as well. So you can always have an eye to the future, and that's just one thing that try to get yourself in a good position early. And prepare for that.
Such great advice. Thank you, Representative Frost. Do you have anything else you want to say to all our students before we let you go back to your busy day?
Yes. I think the biggest thing is listen, stay safe, stay healthy. Be courteous to others, and government, I know you talked to a number of my colleagues, government's here to try to work with you, not against you. And so, do pay attention to your government as well. I talked about your finances and things of that nature, trying to get off to a good step there, but also pay attention to your local government, your selectmen, your city councilors, what's happening. Don't lose sight of what happens locally, because that impacts you more than probably any other part of government, because you all count on local services like your schools, for example, your local roads, everything like that is controlled by your local community. Those are important things to stay on top of and pay attention so you know what's happening. But pay attention to what's happening at the state level, like what I do as a state rep, or you're at the federal level, what's happening with your Congress folks or the president or what have you. So just try to pay attention, try to follow what's going on, and always try to get 2 sides, 3 sides of the story, whether it's politics or anything else in life. That's the other little thing too. There's always, people say there's always 2 sides of the story. Generally, I find out in this business, there's like 3 or 4 sides of the story, and it's your job to try to work that out and figure it out so that you can make informed decisions for yourself. So I wish you all the best, and for the seniors, happy graduation. And for the juniors, looking forward to maybe next year being a normal year of schooling for you, hopefully.
All right. Well, thank you again for taking a few minutes for us. That was some wonderful advice, and we wish you the best on the rest of your day.
Oh, thank you very, very much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Next up, we have Matthew. Matt, can you introduce yourself?
I was going to say, you're going to try it at the end there. So it's Matthew Popenick.
Thank you. From Dell
No problem.
Technologies, and he's going to be talking to us about data visualization and skills of the future. Thanks for joining us, Matt. Thanks for being patient there for a minute or two. So why don't we start with, you work for Dell. What do you do there?
So I'm a project manager, which is one of those jobs that I don't think many people going through high school or college, I know I didn't say like, hey, I want to grow up someday to be a project manager. It's one of those things you sort of find yourself in once you get it good at organization and problem solving.
Yes. And so what does that look like at Dell? Because when I think of Dell, I think of I'm buying a computer.
Yeah. So actually, so Dell, which used to be EMC in Massachusetts, so everyone knows the laptops and that type of stuff, but we actually do a lot more than that. So that's what we call the client side of the business, the stuff that you or I would purchase directly. What we actually do a lot more of is selling large data storage cabinets. So these refrigerator sized arrays that store pretty much all of the data that you have that you don't even know we're there, right? So like your banking records, your medical records, you go to Disney and all of the animatronic rides, they run off of computer code that's probably running on one of our systems. So a lot of what we do, especially in Massachusetts, is sell those types of arrays, but we don't sell them to individuals, right? You're not going to go out and buy one of these to store all your photos and your videos on. They run for a couple of $1 million each. So it's going to be large companies that are purchasing these.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. So let's start with get into data visualization. What is that?
Yeah, so it's something that's interesting that's kind of grown up in the last couple of years. One of the things that I think that everyone over the last 10 years has seen is that there's tons of data at our fingertips now, right? Your apps are collecting it, you're collecting it every time you purchase something, all of that. There's just tons of data being collected now. And for a while, that was a really valuable skill, right? Being able to pull information, put together spreadsheets, right? Things that are like really basic now. The problem that employers are seeing now is you've got massive volumes of data. How do I do anything with that, right? So like the Internet of Things is here. We have this thing called Manufacturing 4.0. We've just got these massive amounts of data that's being collected. Data visualization is a skill that we're looking for more and more, where all that data is taken and turned into something, right? So rather than just a pile of stuff, you can look at it and say, I got something out of it. A great way to think of this is, I don't know how many of the people on use Waze, right? Waze is a traffic app or a travel app, depends on how you're using it. And it allows you to say, I'm going from point A to point B, and then it collects data on all the people that are traveling the same route across the day. So it says, okay, it should take an hour, but all the data I've collected shows me that at this time of day, there's this much traffic, or I see people slowing down, and it starts taking all that data and turning it into a really easy visualization. I can see that there's a red line showing a slowdown. I know that it's going to add some time to my route. So it interprets that in a way where you can look at it and say, I can make an informed decision based on this data. Because up to this point, it's just these massive, we actually refer to them as data lakes. I've got a massive data lake, not even a pool of data, a lake of data. How do I then use that to turn it into something that I can make decisions about?
Okay, so it's about making lots of different points of data into something usable,
right,
that may be able to predict future patterns or may give insight into what's going on now. Basically?
Correct. Yeah. So being able to not basically, yeah. So in a simple way, yeah, it's being able to take it and either make decisions for what I need to do right now, yep, or what do I need to do in the future. And I actually joke, there's a person on our team, I say that he can predict the future. He just says that he does data visualization, but I said, yeah, but based on that, I can see what's going to happen in the future. As far as I'm concerned, you're predicting the future.
It's a new kind of psychic.
Yeah, exactly. Based on data and based on facts. Yeah, exactly.
That's a skill that wasn't even around when I entered the workforce years ago. So that's a skill that companies are now looking for that perhaps wasn't part of my education. Is it part of education these days?
It is. So there are some schools that do that. The one that we partner with most in New England is UMass Lowell. So UMass Lowell has a great data analytics program. So they don't just look at the data visualization, they also look at data collection, being able to interpret trends, all of that stuff. So we actually hire interns and then full-time employees out of their program. There's plenty of other schools, but that's the one that we usually focus on for this region to be pulling those types of skill sets out of. So it's absolutely in the curriculum now, and it's something that we actually will put it on the resume or on the job sheet saying, do you have strong data analytics skills? And actually data visualization is ending up on those as well more.
So it's the hot skill right now, basically.
It's it's a very strong differentiator. So it's great when people, like when I started, if you could use the Microsoft Office suite, so this is 20 years ago, that was like, great, you know how to do Excel, you know how to do, Access, all those things. That's like a given. That's like being able to use a rotary telephone 20 years ago. Right now, it's if you have those types of things, it lets you stand out from the rest of the pack. And I think we hired 2 people this year just based on having that on the resume out of a pool of interns that we were picking from.
Wow. And so skills change.
Yeah.
Skills that people need change. And right now, data visualization is hot. What do you foresee? Can you be a psychic for us for our college band? Because we have job seekers that might want to go take a course, get that on the resume, go start applying to jobs. And we have our college bound students or military students that may not be entering the workforce directly. Do you have any psychic abilities to tell us what's coming up next? What should they be looking for?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. So one, and like some of these are soft skills, right? So like when I talk with BVEF, a lot of times it's about the soft skill stuff. One, communication, right? So this is being a strong communicator is really important, and not just one-way communication. Like I think a lot of times when we say communication is one of the things we're looking for, we always say strong communicator, right? Like we're looking for employees, strong communicator. It doesn't just mean you can talk well, right? A lot of people think like strong communication means I can speak well and people hear me. It's more the other direction. Strong communication skills, right? So that we'll go back to data visualization. When you're looking at what they're presenting to you, it's being able to see it, understand what they're saying, understand a lot of context, because they're going to say, whenever you're dealing with different people in a company or in the workforce, wherever, they all have their mindset or their glossary of terms that they use to communicate. So hearing that, understanding it, interpreting it, and then being able to communicate back in a way that it's useful, valuable, actually gets your point across. That's a really valuable skill, and I think it's underrated. A lot of people think that they can sort of, sidestep communication, like whether it's public speaking or like, oh, I'm not really good, I don't want to work with people. I work in a tech company, which is large databases. I deal with people all day long, right? No one's out there. You're not, all I do is create data, but you're actually dealing with people. So communication is key, right? That's going to be the best way to get strong ideas across and turn things into, turn your vision into creation. The other thing, it's a little bit, it's being able to work in that team environment where like the workforce really is structure, right? But you can't, and I think some of your military people will understand this, you can't just bark orders in the real world and expect people to get things done. When I started working 20 years ago, people just said, this is what you're doing, and it gets it done. Now it's getting people to grab on to what you're doing and understand. Again, it kind of goes back to the communication skills. So I'd say that piece of it is one of the most important things going forward, is communication, especially more in this remote world, because we're not sitting across the table and talking to other people. Now we're usually doing this even before, right? You're doing a global audience of that type of skill set.
So what do I do if I don't like people?
So
if I'm graduating and I hear you,
Yep.
I know I need to develop these skills. I don't naturally have them. What do I do?
Yeah, so what I did is, so I originally wasn't a big communications person, is you put yourself into roles where you're going to be exposed to it. And it's like small amounts of danger, right? So you get enough where you can put yourself out there, communicate, learn some of those skills, but without the chance that you're just going to fail absolutely. Like, don't bite off like, I'm going to pitch something to the CEO of my like whatever. Don't do that. That's not the starting point. Make it small. Get up in front of your friends and be like, hey, I'm going to propose a toast, right? That's okay. Like when I was doing communications classes, it was every single week you stand up and you give a speech. The first one was, who are you? Right? So you can be as easy as that. So I'd say take small amounts of danger without any real threat on the other side of, if I screw this up, I'm in trouble. If you stand up in front of your friends and say, hey, I just want to propose a toast and I'm going to go through, and just talk for a couple minutes. Worst thing is you bomb and they laugh at you. No one cares, right? And then eventually build yourself up to like where there's more threat, but still less danger, if that makes sense.
That's such a great answer. Essentially, you're saying desensitize yourself.
Yeah. So that was it. Like I took a class on it over 14 weeks. Every week was a new speech. It started with talk about yourself. Then it was talk about something you like doing. By the time we were done with it, was sell me an idea on something where I'll actually change my belief system. And so at the end of 14 weeks, you can do that. Week 1, it was, my name's Matt Papanek. This is what I like. Like, that's it.
Yeah. So if for our college-bound young adults, perhaps take that public speaking course if you're going to go. It's a helpful course or a communications course. So before I let you go today, and you are our finale here, you are
so everyone's asleep by now. Is that what we're going with?
No, they're not. We have some classrooms on, so just so you know, you're streaming.
Oh, that's good.
The teachers logged on, and I'm like imagining us on big screens, which is a little bit intimidating, but I'm trying not to think about it. So do you have any advice from a personal perspective as a successful person in the work field that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So, and I love giving people concrete things to focus on. I would say, and I know this sounds hokey, but it's be curious, right? Be curious about when you're in the workforce, when you're looking for opportunities, be curious and be open for saying yes to stuff. Like when I started working 23 years ago, I worked on a maintenance line with 5 people working for me, taking screws out of disk drives. And I could have just stuck at doing that job. There's actually somebody still doing that job that was there when I started. But every time they would say, hey, does somebody want to, like, first thing was, does somebody want to take a flight down to North Carolina to show somebody how to do what we do at our factory? I said, sure, I'll take it. I went and did that. Next thing you know, it was, hey, we got a project on redesigning packaging. Sure, I'll take it. Next thing you know, I was running teams of 30 and 40 people on, sustainability or data security or government contracts. And it kept on being eventually they'd say, well, if we've got an opportunity, Matt says yes, give it to him. And I've now built this up to where I have a team of group of people working for me. We take on all the giant projects that Dell, so giant multi-country company, that they throw the ball in the air and say, Matt, catch it, figure out how to do it. And it all started with me just saying, sure, I'll try that. Worst I can do is not be able to figure it out. And eventually I worked through figuring stuff out. So I'd say just be open for when you see that there's an opportunity, you say, sure, I'll try that. Usually, if you're the one that steps forward and says, I'll give it a chance, everyone else is just waiting for you to succeed, right? No one's usually standing there saying like, oh, I could have done it better. If they could have, they would have stepped forward. So at least putting yourself in the arena and putting your hat in the ring, you're already head and shoulders above a bunch of other people. And if you do that enough times, pretty soon you become the go-to person for successful projects. So that's it. Be curious and take on big things.
Get in the ring. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Christopher S., who wants you to know he is still up and listening.
Thanks, Chris. That's great.
Privately chatting me throughout the day, so I figured I'd share that with you. So
I appreciate that. That's nice. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Matt. That was great information. Thank you for sharing your time with us. And to everyone else who is still on, who is watching this recording at a later date or streaming, thank you so much for joining us today in the BVEF Education Room for the Central Massachusetts Public School System's Virtual Job Fair and Career Readiness event. We hope that you found all of our speakers informative and enlightening. All of the video content will be available on the BVEF YouTube channel for member schools. Your teachers will also have access through our member community. Thank you all for coming and have a wonderful day.